Fitzpatrick takes the snap, drops back, lobs it back right corner. Decker! He's got it! Touchdown! Eric Decker scores! And the Jets have won it in overtime!
This is the Jet Take with Ben Blessington and Kyle Fahey.
Welcome back to another episode of the Jet Take. I'm your host, Ben Blessington. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Money, Kyle Fahey. Kyle, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Ben, I am Mr. Money now, seeing as that episode is quickly becoming our most downloaded ever, and so there was an absence of Ben Blessington on it.
Let's recap what's happened since our last official episode. We got off on a Wednesday night. We were talking about Tyrann Mathieu possibly signing here. We were talking about maybe we could bring back ASJ, Vinny Curry. We were talking about a bunch of different things. That has all changed. We were talking about whether the Jets were going to even take a quarterback. So obviously, throughout the span of a few days, the New York Jets traded up. I mean, if you're listening to this, you already know this. Traded up to the number 3 overall pick for a quarterback, despite what some people are saying. And so I'm excited. I'm nervous about if it's going to be Josh Allen, but
we know stipulation. We know what's going to happen. So,
but yes, we're very excited about that. Yes, and I will say I was asleep when it all happened. I'm on the West Coast. I woke up at like 7.
Ben, I tried.
He did try. I woke up at 7. I checked my phone, saw if there's any news, just responded to a few people, went back to bed. The news broke like 10 minutes after I went back to bed.
Yep.
Woke up at 10. Kyle had already done a show with Greg Armstrong from TOJ, so thank you to Greg, and uploaded it. So, Kyle, thank you. Anyway, so we got that to break down.
So that means it's your turn to upload tonight. So.
Debatable. We got that to talk about. We have the Terrell Pryor, Alan Hearns. We have to go over all the quarterbacks, and there's also quite a few needs still on this team that we can talk about, whether it's tight end, defensive end, outside linebacker. So all of that and a little bit more. So you can follow us at the Jet Take on Twitter. That's the best place to follow us. Our numbers there have grown tremendously over the past few weeks. So thank you to everybody who's just recently followed us and has been following us since the beginning. We're loving the interactions we're getting. I'm loving
new people.
I know it's quite a few new people. Just a bunch of notifications that we love it. I'm trying to respond to everybody. But you know, with more followers comes more hate sometimes. I did it's becoming, I think, or maybe one of our most popular tweets ever was I did like a QB comparisons thing, and I kind of just did like their ceilings. And so I had, Darnold as Romo, which I guess really isn't his ceiling. But I was just kind of doing like lofty QB comparisons, and I did Darnold as Romo, Rosen as Matt Ryan, Mayfield as Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Mike Vick, to Josh Allen, Jamarcus Russell, and that got quite a bit of hate.
Nice.
That was more of a ceiling than I threw a Josh Allen joke there. But anyway, so we'll be doing some of that as well.
But he's tall, man. He's tall.
He's tall. He's got big hands, guys. He can throw it really far.
Have you seen him hold a football? Unlike me, he can grip a whole football with one hand.
Kyle's got that half grip on a kid-sized football, but
nope, that's an NFL ball. I've proven half multiple times.
I don't know about that, but anyway,
literally says official ball of the NFL in the photo.
It's doctored. You're good at Photoshop. Anyways, so let's hop into that. We got some callers in the line, and then the last thing of note is I will have to leave about an hour into this episode. I don't know why Kyle's laughing. Basically, my dog.
Your dog's gonna survive. It's fine.
Yeah, she'll be fine. She swallowed this like rubber bone that she's had for a while, but it's like 6 or 7 inches. It's a pretty big thing. She just swallowed it whole. She got pretty sick.
Let's call it like it is. Your dog's an idiot for swallowing that.
She is a complete idiot. I mean, she's a lab. She eats everything. But anyways, so she's pretty sick, but she's fine. But I got to leave and take her from the vet to.
Kyle will be taking over, and the downloads will go up. Is what you're saying.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess since Kyle will scoot into the main host show, that the downloads are going to go up. Anyways, so no worries. She'll be fine. I'll be here for the first hour, and Kyle will bring up the rear. So, Kyle, let's hop into it with the biggest news. We're going to get to callers pretty soon, sooner than we normally do, just for the time's sake. But I'll just go to you first off with just the big news. Obviously, took pretty much everybody by shock. I mean, I was saying on Wednesday's episode, I think and I got to be honest, I was completely wrong. And I'm not just saying that because the Jets actually did it. just the way it worked out is I was basically saying, I don't think the Jets are going to trade up until draft night, and I don't think they should because my thing was, let's see how the board breaks. If the Giants pass on a quarterback and whatnot. Unbelievably stupid take looking back on it, and I will own up to that. I'm not just saying that because the Jets do it, but the thing that we didn't really talk about is the price was significantly cheaper, and a lot of people are freaking out about the number of second-round picks. The Jets basically just gave up 3 second-round picks, but I look at it as it's like the Jets basically turned Sheldon Richardson and 2 second-round picks into Jermaine Kearse and their franchise quarterback. And if you're upset with Mike Maccagnan about that, and he didn't have to give up any ones besides the one they have this year, unbelievable move by Mike Maccagnan. I love it. I don't, everybody's freaking out about the second-round picks. The Jets have had maybe 2 good second-round picks in the last decade. So I'm all for it. Obviously it's a bummer to take those 2 second-round picks. I was kind of, excited to see where they were going to go with it, but I would obviously much rather have a guy like Josh Rosen or Baker Mayfield than be stuck sitting at 6 taking Josh Allen and then, getting a corner and a running back or whatever in the second round. So I'm very happy about this. But, Kyle, I wanted to get your initial reaction on this trade.
Ben, while you were sleeping, I was vlogging and podcasting away. I was very excited. Yep. I'm not going to let you, clip this down. This is forever going to be held against you. I'm obviously very excited. I love all the media going, the Jets gave up too much. When there's been a lot of media hate this week from the Jets and just people who know absolutely nothing. I'm really loving the people that go, great for the Jets to go and get their franchise quarterback. Now who are they going to throw to? I don't know. Maybe the 3 guys who have gotten 1,000 yards with Bryce Petty, Josh McCown, and Ryan Fitzpatrick / Geno Smith for one game for the past couple of years. Yeah, maybe those guys. But anyway. The media hate is real, saying we gave up too much. Ben, I think you put it well. We gave up Sheldon Richardson for a second-round pick and Jermaine Kearse, and then take that second-round pick, swap it, do a little math, and you get your franchise quarterback. This isn't a big loss for the Jets at all. Obviously, the swapping of the first-round picks was a necessary thing in the trade. Don't understand the hate behind that. The Jets should have kept their first. That trade wouldn't have been accepted if we offered next year's first-round pick. I mean, some people just don't think things through on Twitter half the time, if we're being 100% honest. But this was a good trade for both sides. The Colts, who I'm a big fan of what they're doing right now with the direction they're going. Hopefully Luck's healthy. But they're a team that needs a bunch of picks to build that roster because, honestly, it's Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton, Ryan Kelly, and then that's about it. Maybe Quincy Wilson on defense if you want to talk
Jacoby
about
Brissett. We're gonna throw Jacoby Brissett in there. I was actually okay with what he did last year, and
he wasn't.
If Luck's healthy, they could probably trade him for something, but I think they'll keep him for now. Yeah. So the one problem I really have with this trade, and it's not really an issue if it all works out for the Jets, but I mean I've been saying it since really the end of the season. Josh Rosen's my favorite quarterback in this draft, and I really, really, really want to get him. And so if it works out for the Jets, I'll be happy, but I'm really nervous about the Giants taking him at 2, maybe the Cardinals moving up and getting him, maybe the Bills. I don't really see the Bills taking a UCLA quarterback, but, I mean, who knows?
I love that narrative throughout the draft. It's like, he'd be perfect for Buffalo. Look how big he is. It's more just, you take a UCLA quarterback from Manhattan Beach, which is actually where I used to live, and you're going to stick him in Buffalo. So, yes, there is some of the, Josh Allen right there to throw in. That's where he used to live. Humble brag.
It's not. That wasn't even a brag. It was just I lived there for 4 years, so at least I know the weather is basically what I was trying to get there. It's sunny pretty much every day. Josh Allen's got massive hands, tall, can throw it.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Long. Okay, Kyle. So basically, I mean, I guess that's where the Buffalo thing comes in. But yeah, if the Jets land Josh Rosen, I'll be ecstatic. I'll be good with Baker Mayfield as well. Like, I'm not going to be upset if the Jets get Baker Mayfield. For all we know, he might be better than Josh Rosen. Excuse me.
We know he'll be better than Josh Allen.
yeah. As long as it's not Josh Allen, it's basically like I'm pretty set on Sam Darnold going number 1. I don't even think. I mean, I think Sam Darnold is a good quarterback prospect, but I think Rosen's better. But it sounds alarming. Yes. But it sounds like it's going to go Darnold number 1. I pray that the reason the Giants didn't trade down is they love Saquon Barkley, and they're saying, you know what, we're going to take him. He's going to be a game-changing player for us. Going to, imagine pairing Odell Beckham Jr., Saquon Barkley. I mean, we're going to have the most exciting offense, and whatever. And then they're like, hey, if we want to take a quarterback, we're fine with if Lamar Jackson falls to the second round or Mason Rudolph or whatever. Maybe they like a guy later. Or they drafted Davis Webb last year. Maybe they like him.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not.
Yeah.
And I think that it is up there.
Davis Webb. Forgot about him.
Yes.
Did you see
it
that
is
tweet?
possible. It is possible. And the report was that the Jets tried to move up to number 2 and they couldn't get it. They couldn't agree to decide. But I'm afraid that the Giants are going to trade down. The Bills are going to move up, take Rosen, or the Cardinals are going to move or take Rosen, or the Giants are going to sit there and take Rosen and just say, you know what, we're going to have Rosen to find Eli. So I hope that the Giants didn't want to move out of the play for Saquon Barkley because then they know the Browns are going to take him at 4. And if it all works out for the Jets, I will love it even more. I love this trade, but I'll feel a little like, oh, they just missed out on a guy like Josh Rosen, who I think is going to be the next best quarterback, and I think he's going to be the best quarterback in this draft. But I'm a big fan of Baker Mayfield and what he can do.
Sure.
And you know, if Jeremy Bates is willing to build a scheme around him, then I'm all for it.
I want to talk quickly.
All right, you're going to talk, and then we're going to go to the callers.
Yeah. Couple notes. One, did you see the tweet from the Giants fan that said, why would we draft a quarterback at 2? We have Davis Webb. And, like, he was 100%, like, meaning that.
Did
you see that?
Kyle, it sounds crazy, but I actually think that there are some people in the Giants brass that might think that. The only thing that would stop them from thinking that is it is a new regime. So that
I mean, Dave Gettleman is a historic idiot, and I think the Giants hired possibly the worst candidate this offseason, who is like known as an absolute jerk through the Carolina Panthers franchise, and a jerk to make it PG, and nobody will want to sign with them. Honestly, is what I'm saying. So that comes back to bite you. He's a decent drafter, though. He did decent with Carolina, but as a person and as a negotiator,
well, let's not bold claims about him as a person if you've never met him. Let's just stick. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Oh, well,
let's just hope.
Have you never heard our podcast before? Are you kidding me?
All right. Well, let's move on. To
we slander people left and right. No,
you slander people left and right, Kyle.
This is correct, and that's why we get good downloads. Also,
I don't think
your boy Michael Nania, or however you say his last name, he didn't laugh at my joke, so I might slander him. He tweeted out Josh Allen or Saquon Barkley at 3 if you had to. And, like, obviously I went with Saquon Barkley, and I was very shocked to see 61% of the people went with Josh Allen.
Well, first of all, that situation's never going to rise because what we've been saying, this is going to be the last thing that we're going to go to the callers. What we've been saying really from the end of the season, and especially last week, it was the major tone. Find a way to get Mayfield, Rosen, or Darnold, and we'll be happy.
Yes.
They've assured themselves that they're going to get Mayfield, Rosen, or Darnold. The problem is that they might be in love with Allen instead of Mayfield. But, yeah, I get the hypothetical. If you know that the Jets are in love with Allen, would you rather have Allen or Barkley? And I even said this on last week's podcast. You know what? If that's the choice, and I hope it's not, I would hope the Jets go Mayfield. Yeah, you go Barkley and then just hope Teddy Bridgewater. But that situation is not going to arrive because that's a question you could have maybe asked if the Jets were picking at 6 and Saquon Barkley fell and the Jets could also. But the fact that they have 3 doesn't matter. It's a bogus question. We have Baker Mayfield's going to be on the board.
Michael.
Josh Rosen's going to be on the board. One of them is going to be on the board. So I'm all for it. But let's go ahead and get to the callers. We got quite a few on the line. We got to move forward.
Nick's been on for 47 minutes.
Jeez, all right. Well, we're going to get Nick on first then.
Nick is dedicated.
He doesn't realize that I was running a little late, so my apologies to you, Nick. But how's it going, man?
Good. How about you?
Oh, I'm good. You know, we're just I was ecstatic to hear the news that the Jets woke up after it seems like about 4 or 5 years of just being asleep at the wheel. They finally made a move, and I wanted to get
I wanted to get Dylan Donahue then.
Okay, all right, Kyle. I wanted to get your thoughts on the trade and how you're feeling about it.
Well, first of all, I just wanted to say respond to the comment of how I've been on for about 47 minutes. I was eating supper, so I haven't been actually, into it. So, anyways. Anyway,
you could say you love the Jets take that much. It's all right. Also, I love the supper over dinner. That's how you know you're a good guy.
High class right there. I like it.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Anyways, back on the topic on the trade. I don't see how anyone
got cuffed out of your hosting job right now. Nick just took over for you.
I just asked him a question. He's responding.
He transitioned very well.
Okay. Anyways, onto the topic of the trade. To be honest, I don't know how anyone could dislike it. If you dislike it, I don't want to be insulting to anyone, but you're an absolute moron. You know, like, I don't know how you can. I don't know how you can.
I like this guy. I like this new caller.
How can you dislike it? Like, I'm trying to find a flaw in the trade, and I can't find one single flaw. I can't.
Josh Allen.
Well, okay. Onto the topic of Josh Allen. There actually is, now that I think about it, there is one thing I do not like with the trade, and it's not that it's more of that we weren't able to get up to 2, and we're at 3 instead, because if it were me, I don't rank Baker Mayfield or Josh Allen very high, for me personally.
It's a hot take.
So with Sam, you know, when I've looked at Sam Darnold, I noticed how he's not always his mechanics are they're just
at times.
Yeah, they're just at times he breaks down. I mean, it's just, you know, I just don't see how he can be the number one quarterback. I mean, like, I think because of his ability and what he's shown and how he's played in big games, I think that attributes a lot to what his status is. But that's just my view on Sam Darnold. Josh Rosen, I honestly do think he's the best quarterback in this year's class. And I don't even think, in my opinion, it's not even really close. But, you know, because when you look at Josh Rosen, he's just about as good as Darnold is at everything except for mobility and Josh Rosen also has better mechanics than Sam Darnold, which when they come into the league right away, I don't know if Sam Darnold, if he goes to the Browns, if he'll be starting right away. It sounds like he's not, but within their first career starts, I just don't see a way how if they do both play in year one, I would be honestly shocked if Sam Darnold just came away and blew everything out of the water, especially with those turnovers. So, and they also both put up big-time passing numbers too. So, like, you know, I don't know. And then Baker Mayfield, I struggle with him because I know his size isn't great, but I don't think the size really
matter. That's proven.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no. Because
wait, what are we talking about?
Baker Mayfield.
No, okay, that was a joke. That was a size doesn't matter joke.
Just ignore Kyle.
Okay. Yeah.
Kyle's like literally 10 years old.
Okay.
Just keep going.
Okay. Baker Mayfield, with his size, I mean, it's proven. I mean, you can ask just about every NFL quarterback, and, you know, gripping the ball in these conditions and having bigger hands does help. But if you're a guy like Sam Darnold and you don't even hold the ball with two hands and you just fumble the ball all the time, it doesn't make a difference. So, but when you play in New England, you know, Buffalo, and obviously in East Rutherford, I don't know how I could feel comfortable with that kind of size. But I don't think the size is a determining factor here either. I think there's other concerns with him as far as what kind of person he is. Now, I'm not going to be the one to judge because I don't know him personally, but just based on some of his quotes and some of the things he said, I think for some teams it's going to worry some, and maybe for others it won't. But I don't know. And then you look at his statistics, which is just blows you out of the water. 70.5% completion percentage, which is just video game like numbers. Got 4,627 yards and 43 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. And then I start looking at quarterbacks that come out of the Big 12, and specifically, I'm going to go back and look at a guy like Geno Smith, because I know Geno Smith, a lot of people projected him to go in the first round. And his numbers were also video game-like as far as I'm not really comparing the two, but it's what I'm just trying to say is judging based off numbers is kind of hard. If you look at Geno Smith, he had 71.2% completion rate, 4,205 yards, 42 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. So I think when you come out of a system like an air raid system, like both of them did, decision making, just being able to progress through all your reads, I think out of those systems are a lot harder. But overall, I think Baker Mayfield is definitely one of the more intriguing prospects. But me personally, I have him in a mid to low first round grade, in my opinion. But and then I think Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold, even though Sam Darnold doesn't have the best mechanics, I would have to put them both in early first easily, both top 3. But anyways, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Kyle here just to get him involved. Kyle, your thoughts on that take?
It's a hot take for sure. I think there are a lot of people that agree with you, and a lot of people within the NFL that agree with you. I think that's been evident by all the buzz around certain players. I personally don't think Sam Darnold is the best quarterback in this draft.
I don't either.
I like what you were saying about his mechanics, because his mechanics break down quite frequently. If you really look at it, just like the way he sets his feet and sets his arm, like as he throws, it reminds me a lot of Tim Tebow in college, if I'm being 100% honest with you. But he has enough like natural arm strength and quick release velocity where he overcomes that a lot. And I don't know if the difference of college safeties and corners versus NFL safeties and corners is going to change that. Obviously, there's going to be some effect, but I think he'll be able to survive in the NFL. He just needs to get coached up a little bit. So I think he will be a good quarterback in the NFL, but you're absolutely right about his mechanics. Josh Allen, he was my number 1 quarterback last year if he came out in that draft, which he didn't. He chose to stay, obviously, and he was my number 1 quarterback throughout most of the summer. And then just the breakdown in his mechanics and also his demeanor and his play has been insane almost when you look at it. I mean, he went from being a guy that I was 100% sold on. You can ask Ben about this. I was loving him. I wanted the Jets to get him. And then just this season, he went from breaking, sacks and making these amazing, smart decision throws, placing it where only his guys could get it to, struggling against Boise State and getting 176 yards and 2 interceptions. I don't know what happened in that time. I think there's still a hope for Josh Allen to be maybe, if I'm being 100% honest, maybe serviceable at an NFL level play, a couple years, not at like a Pro Bowl level or anything, just based off pure talent, but be like a decent starter. But I don't see him at much more than that at this point, just because of his decisions he's been making. And, he's always had decision problems, but this year it was just emphasized.
Yeah, well, when I look at Josh Allen, he doesn't throw the ball very much either. So, imagine if they actually threw the ball, every single down. I think his turnovers would be even higher. So, and then as an Iowa fan, I obviously watched the Iowa versus Wyoming game, and his decision making was atrocious. So
yeah, I went back.
I recall that. I recall that game.
So instead, I mean, a lot of people when they want to watch, the number one thing I'll go recommend is for people who want to watch these quarterbacks, don't necessarily just go watch highlights. Go, pick a game, find maybe a hard defense or cold weather. And I found that I was like, okay, what was the hardest defense Josh Allen probably ever played? And I found Iowa 2017. I just watched it. I was like, okay, I'm going to go with an open mind. I saw him make maybe one or two nice plays, and I was just, oh my goodness, like just passes into the stands, interceptions on screen passes. It was like Geno Smith combined with Paxton Lynch combined with Christian Hackenberg, like literally every bad quarterback you could imagine.
Every quarterback Mike McCagnon loves.
Yeah, when I look at Josh Allen and when I look at the Iowa film, his decision-making was obviously really bad, but you have to keep in mind this Iowa defense is really good. I mean, you've got Josh Jackson. Yeah, Josie Jewell. Are you guys Iowa fans, or do you guys watch Iowa? Or
I've watched Iowa players just for pure draft preparation, specifically Josh Jackson and Josie Jewell.
Yeah, Josh Jackson, yeah. I mean, I've seen a few games, but yeah.
Yeah, anyways. Back on the topic of Josh Allen, I look at Josh Allen, and I personally would give him a late first-round grade. I think his upside is there, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants would consider him at 2 just because of pure upside and the fact that they don't have to play him right away. So I think if the Giants were taking a quarterback, Josh Allen would also be in the play there at number 2. But if I were to draft him, I wouldn't draft him much higher than the late first round. But that's just how I view him, because I think there's just too many. You've got too many question marks, especially with the accuracy. And accuracy, you just can't teach it. And footwork, you can practice and get good at that, but when you actually get into the game, oftentimes you revert back. You revert back to what you know, and that's what I'm scared about. And I think even with Hackenberg, with him working with what's his name? Is it like Joe Christensen or something? I think is his name.
Yeah. The quarterback guru.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even with working with him, I still worry about if he were to ever play that he would just revert back to his old mechanics, because I think that's what tends to happen to these guys. Even when they go and try to learn from these quarterback gurus, but I don't know.
No, yeah, I mean you're completely right. With Allen, it's puzzling as to why he's a top quarterback. I mean, obviously people are. It's the same thing with the Kyle Bowler. Yeah, it's Mel Kiper, and it's the same thing with the Kyle Bowler, Jamarcus Russell was a bit different. But, when you're enamored that a guy can be on his knees and throw from the 50-yard line and throw it between goalposts, I mean, yes, if Allen goes to, let's say, New England, let's say he falls and the Pats pick him in the second round, and he's able to sit for a year or two behind Brady, and then they can build a scheme around him, and he can try to refine some of that stuff, I agree with you. He might be able to do it because, I think Jets Twitter's really, really hard on Allen because they're so afraid that the Jets are going to take him that we only have to swing so hard the other way. He's not as bad as a prospect as Christian Hackenberg. He has a lot of potential, but you don't draft based off potential. He has arguably the highest ceiling out of any of these quarterbacks, but he has the lowest floor and the most likely probability to hit that floor. So the Jets should stay far away from him. It's hard to see. I can't recall many times where guys fixed accuracy. That's one of the things I love about Baker Mayfield is he's arguably the most accurate quarterback in the draft. Whether sometimes his mechanics break down, he's a bit of an arm thrower, whatnot, the ball is always in the right place. And that's something that I feel is something that's going to be hard to correct for Allen. There are things like footwork and mechanics that you can fix, but accuracy is something that's pretty difficult to fix at this stage in your career. But the difference between Allen, and we're going to move on quickly because we've got a lot of callers and we want to keep moving, but the difference between a guy like Allen and Darnold is Darnold has weird mechanics and they're not pretty, but again, he makes it work, and it's almost like Sean Marion's jump shot, where it's like or Lonzo Ball, or just anything like that, where they have a weird, funky jump shot, but it works for them, and if it's working for them and they're delivering the ball with accuracy and timing and whatnot, they're not going to really change it. So it's something you would teach, but it's not something I'd really change. Allen, it's Sean Marion's jump shot, except he's bricking it.
Yeah, and then another thing to note about Sam Darnold is even with his pretty clunky mechanics that aren't always consistent, he still in 2016 he put up a 67.2% completion percentage, and then the next year he put up 63.1%. So I mean, even with those bad mechanics, he still is able to put up like a decent completion percentage, and I think that's notable. So imagine what he could do if he had good mechanics. So I think that's that's just my.
And Nick, take. Last we're gonna have two questions for you. One, we're gonna abridge this question a bit. We're gonna look just at the tight ends right now. Obviously, the other big part about this trade is it takes away two of the Jets' second-round draft picks. And I misspoke. We're not going to talk about tight ends. We're going to talk about edge rushers. We'll talk about tight ends in the next caller. But the point with the tight ends and the edge rushers and the defensive linemen is the Jets have some holes on this team, starting lineup holes that haven't been fixed. And the part of this trade, which was a little disheartening, but again, if you get your franchise quarterback, who cares? Is you take away two second-round draft picks, and now it's kind of going to be harder to fill those roles. So at tight end, you might look at guys like Jordan Leggett stepping up, and defensive line, you might see a guy like Xavier Cooper, Coney Ely stepping up. Outside linebacker, edge rusher, is there any guy you think that's either on this team, such as maybe a Josh Martin or I guess Dylan Donahue or Lorenzo Malden?
Nope.
Lorenzo Malden. Or, I mean, I don't know if you have any prospects that you see in the third round or in free agency. How do you think the Jets are going to be able to solve this edge rusher crisis? And the last thing I'll add on to this is, whether or not they're able to find the long-term solution, the Jets will have a boatload of money next year, and next year's free agency class is going to be a very good edge rusher. So it seems like next year they're going to get their top edge rusher. But how do you think the Jets are going to fill it for this year? Again, barring unless they fall into a third-round, gem, and he's their next edge rusher. But how are they going to plug this hole for 2018?
To be honest, I don't think the Jets prioritize that much. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if we just got like some veteran guy that's maybe the best free agent as far as that. But I don't think we can really address that until next year, and possibly the first round next year, I think, is where that really needs to be addressed. I don't know. It really depends on how they view some of these prospects in the third round. I know the offensive linemen aren't necessarily great this year, so if they feel that they can get a pretty solid edge rusher in the third round, and especially with the offensive linemen not being so good, then maybe they could find some guy there. But yeah, I think the offensive line will be much better. So I think if you sign a veteran and draft someone in the third round, I think that might be the way that they might have to approach it, or they might have to address it next year in the first round, because I don't think we're going to be able to find a very good option moving forward for next season.
Yeah, I agree with you. Nick, last question for you. I mean, we're about 4 or 5 weeks out from the NFL draft. I want your prediction on who the Jets are going to take and who you'd like them to take at 3.
Prediction? It's very, very difficult for me, but at the end of the day, I do think it's going to be Josh Rosen. I do. I know it's very, very difficult, and I think it could go either way. I really do. Especially, it's very hard to predict from what the Giants are going to do. But as far as who I want, I want Josh Rosen or Sam Darnold. One or the other. I would prefer Josh Rosen though, and I think if one of the two quarterbacks were going to be available, I do think it would be Josh Rosen.
All right. Well, Nick, thank you so much for calling in, and we gave you some extra time because we love that you called in so early, so thank you for that. We hope to hear from you again in future episodes. Really quickly, shout out your social media so our listeners can give you a follow.
Yeah, at Nick the Jets fan.
All right. Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. We'll make sure to tweet that out, and as I said, we hope you join us again for a future episode.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Right, that was Nick. A great call there. We talked extensively about the quarterbacks, and we're going to keep it moving here just because of this timing issue. And I realize Scott Mason from Play Like a Jet podcast is on the line, so I'm going to bring Scott on, not now, but in a bit, and he'll fill in for me.
You're about to say, you're about to call over other callers.
Yeah, I understand. We got a few in front of him. I'm saying, but when I go, we're going to bring Scott
early.
on.
Yeah. Okay. So you can.
It's actually I have an actual reason, Scott, but we'll wait for that. We're going to go to Mike, who is. Yeah, or my dog's in the hospital, but whatever, Kyle. Mike, we're going to go to you.
The hospital. It's the dog.
The dog hospital. She has to stay overnight. You know what? Screw you, Kyle. We're going to go to Mike, another caller who was on the line early and beat me to the mic, so thank you so much. No pun intended. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah, I'm so cool.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you very much for having me. Big Jet fan here.
We're glad to hear it. I'm a big Jets fan as well. Kyle, not so much of a fan as a pessimist. GM. Yeah, he likes to think of himself as a GM, but his takes are normally pretty trash. Mike, we talked extensively about it with Nick. This trade, how are you feeling about it? Are you excited? Who do you think they're targeting? Is there a guy you have in mind? Just your overall thoughts on this trade.
Well, I live out in San Francisco now, so I woke up at about 8:30 my time when the news broke to me, and the first thought that went to my mind was, finally. McCagan finally put his chips on the table, and I also think he put his chips on the table at the right moment. I have been high on Rosen for a very, very long time, ever since he was the top recruit out of high school. I think the absolute world of him. I'm hoping it will eventually get us there. My only concern, though, is the New York Giants right in front of us at that number 2 pick.
Yeah, I mean and Mike, I mean that everything you just said there is exactly what I'm thinking and that I've said on this podcast. I love Josh Rosen. I think he's the best quarterback in this draft. I think Sam Darnold is going to be a good quarterback in this NFL, in this league. I think he's going to be solid. I've compared him to guys like a Tony Romo or even an Eli Manning. But Josh Rosen, I think, is going to be the top quarterback in this draft class. He just has everything that you wouldn't expect a rookie quarterback to have, from pocket presence to the way he uses his eyes to throw off defenses, accuracy, footwork. I mean, he has it all. He's really a terrific prospect. He has some stuff he's got to work on, but I love Rosen the most. And, yeah, the Giants at number 2 scare me. And in the report that they didn't want to trade down, it scares me as well, but it gives me hope, and the only hope that I'm clinging to is that the Giants want Saquon Barkley. That's the only thing I'm clinging to right now, is that they're like, you know what, the opportunity, and not just the money that you'll make, but the opportunity to have one of the most explosive offenses with Saquon Barkley and Odell Beckham Jr., and, even their first-round pick last year of Evan Ingram. That's going to be a fun offense to watch. And you still have, 2 years of Eli Manning. You have a young Davis Webb right behind him. You just drafted him last year. And you can even get a guy in the second, like, Mason Rudolph, or if a guy like Lamar Jackson falls. But, yeah, the Giants scare me. I'm scared that they'll maybe trade down with a team like the Cardinals or the Bills. But, and if they do, if somebody takes Rosen, I'm going to be happy with Baker Mayfield. I mean, we've been saying just get Mayfield, Rosen, or Darnold. I don't know if that's how you felt, Mike. I wanted to get your thoughts on, let's say the board breaks Darnold number 1, Rosen number 2. Which quarterback are you targeting? Are you an Allen fan or a Mayfield fan?
Well, absolutely. I go with Josh Allen, and here's why. And I think there are some things about Mike McCagan you have to look at that make you think he's going to lead towards Josh Allen. Number 1, McCagan loves the prototypical size, not just in his quarterbacks, but in everything. And it's hurt him in a lot of ways. You look at, Justin Burris, the cornerback out of Houston we took in, I believe, the 3rd or 4th round a couple years ago. Unbelievable size, but the guy can't tackle. Christian Hackenberg, another situation there. 6'4", 225, rocket arm, all the traits you look for in a quarterback. I just don't see him. And again, keep this stat in mind, Baker Mayfield would be the first ever quarterback in, I believe, the top 8 to be 6 feet and under and be drafted in a top 8 pick. So I just don't see them doing it. And as much as I like Baker Mayfield, I love his moxie. I think he made an innocent mistake in college, which, I mean, let's be real. I mean, a lot of people make dumb mistakes like that all the time. Those things sort of happen.
Which one are you referring to? The sideline thing or not being able to beat the cops in a 40-yard?
I'm referring to the food truck thing. I thought that, you know what I mean? Like,
wait, what am I missing? The food truck?
Well, the incident outside the food truck where he got into a fight with somebody or whatever, and then the cops had to arrest him or whatever.
I think he got arrested when he was, like, disorderly conduct. He was 21
it's the same thing. It's the yes, he got arrested.
I thought I missed a story or something. I was like, damn.
No. The first thing the Browns GM said to him when he met him was, "So I hear you like food trucks." So you know,
was that? I think that GM was fired. So.
No, that's the new Browns GM who met with him, I believe, at the Combine.
Kyle, what is wrong with you? Dude,
there have been a lot of Browns GMs in the past 6 months.
Can't blame him there.
You can't blame him, exactly. But another thing, too, people need to look about Baker Mayfield. And, again, I love the guy. I love his moxie. But, you know, he had 2 All-American offensive linemen on his team. He has had All-American position players all throughout it, the spread easy dunk offense. You know, and as a matter of fact, I know he had a high completion percentage, but I really don't think you can take that to an effect with the offense that he played in. He's not going to play in an offense anywhere similar to that when he comes to the Jets. He's going to play in a West Coast offense, which Darnold 1 and then Rosen 2 fits it perfectly. Pro styles, efficient quarterbacks. I just don't, and I'm not sold on Mayfield being the guy. I would have rather stayed put at 6 and hope he fell in our laps there. I think the Jets are actually in a situation where, believe me, this is my last resort on going Josh Allen, but they have Josh McCown, they have Teddy Bridgewater. This would give him a chance to come in, work with Jeremy Bates, a quarterback guru, really learn the ins and outs, get his feet work, which is really his biggest problem. Because if you watch a lot of his games, I mean, oh my God, he makes throws that you would think he could be the best quarterback in the world. And then there's throws you would think it's like, oh my God, there's Christian Hackenberg in preseason right now. So, there are certainly a lot of things that throw you off about him, but there's a lot to like about him. I watched the second half of that Senior Bowl, and if you saw his sideline passes, a lot of his intermediate throws, his pocket awareness, he looked good. I really was very impressed by it. He played on a very bad Wyoming team. I think people really need to take that into consideration. So I am all for them going Josh Allen. I personally would not like Baker Mayfield at 3, not only at 3, but giving up 3 second-round picks. But then again, of course, if he's our franchise guy for the next 10, 15 years, I won't care if we gave up the world for him. And just having to add to that, too, as well, one more thing, I don't think they're done trading yet. I really believe that. I think Darnold locked up number 1 today, and I think the Giants are going to, if they decide that they're willing to not take a quarterback, Rosen, I do think that they're going to look to get something from the Jets. And if I'm the Jets, I don't care. Give up 2 third-round picks. Give up a 4th-round pick. Do what you got to do. If don't just go halfway in. Go all the way in. This is the time to get it done. Get your guy, Mike McCagan, Todd Bowles. Go get Josh Rosen.
So, yeah, Mike, a lot to break down there. The last point I'll break down, and it's an interesting scenario, and I don't know if the Giants would be this kind to the Jets, but yeah, if the Giants said to the Jets, look, we want Saquon Barkley, well, I guess they wouldn't even open with that. They'd say, look, we have offers from other teams to move and hop you and take, whatever quarterback you want. But we still want to stay and get our guy. We have a guy we like. So, hey, Jets, slide us a 3rd and, a 3rd this year, a 5th this year, and a 3rd next year, whatever they throw at them. A 3rd, even just 1 third-round pick and a 2nd in 2020. I don't know. Whatever it is, and say, hey, you get to move up 1 spot, you get your guy, we get our guy, whatever it is, and or else we're going to trade. I don't know if that would ever happen, but it's an interesting thing to think about that the Jets could really assure it. I wouldn't want to trade a 1st to move up the 1 pick or even, but if it's relatively cheap, but again, giving up a 3rd when you've already given up 2 2s is, rough. But yeah, I mean, if the phone lines are open and the Giants give them that option, it's interesting. If the Giants really don't want to actually trade down and they just want Barkley, but they tell the Jets that they're thinking about trading down just so they can coop up an extra mid to late round pick, it might be a genius move for the Giants. But yeah, on the Allen stuff and the Mayfield stuff, I think the number one thing with Allen, and you mentioned the West Coast system, I think Baker Mayfield is a perfect quarterback for a West Coast. Short, intermediate passes is, I think, something you're going to really see him excel at. I understand what you're saying. I understand, all the points that go to Josh Allen of the terrible team he's working with and the ceiling he has, and then all the points that go against Mayfield. It's like a lot of gimme throws, shotgun, motion, college spread, Big Ten quarterback he's listed as 6'1", but yeah, he's probably more close to 6 feet. However, I got to say, I would rather I'm going to be honest here. I would rather take my chances at developing him because I agree. I think that the Jets are in a position where they could start a guy like Josh McCown or Teddy Bridgewater or whatever and build whoever they draft up for a few weeks or a few weeks of the season, maybe the entire season. The thing that's important to note is Charlie Casserly, who is one of Mike Maccagnan's, I guess, confidants. He seems to always be in the know as to what Mike Macagnan is thinking.
They share the same hair dye. So.
Okay, maybe, possibly. They both love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. But he said, look, if the Jets take Allen or Mayfield, they're going to both be projects, is what he said. I disagree to the point where I don't think they're the same level of projects. I think Mayfield's actually closer. But yeah, I think if the Jets take Mayfield or Allen, they're not going to be starting week 1. The reasons I like Mayfield, and I should probably hop into this sooner, but look, he's arguably the most accurate quarterback of the draft. I think that's something you cannot ignore. He did have to make a lot of reads at Oklahoma. It wasn't just a lot of, yes, were there some gimme throws? Yes. But if you go back and watch, there were times where he has to go 1, 2, 3. And I don't mean to say anything. Every time he hits that read, it's on the money. So I have a more confident in that guy who has had to do reads, but when he gets, let's say, whether it's his first read or his 5th read, it is always on the money. I'd rather work with that guy than the guy who's big and tall. He has a rocket arm, and yeah, he's had to go through reads, but it doesn't matter if it's the 1st or 5th guy. A lot of the times it's into the stands. Sometimes he'll hit it, but I got to be honest, Baker Mayfield's a better West Coast quarterback than Josh Allen. No matter who you have, whether it's Mayfield or Allen, you're going to have to structure your offense around them. I trust Bates to, especially if you trust Mayfield, to put plays in that are conducive to his play style. And so that's why I'm going to go with Mayfield. And yeah, does Mayfield have some flaws? Yes. Does Allen have a lot of flaws? Yes. But again, I'm more confident in Baker Mayfield being a good quarterback. And the last thing, and then I'll let you talk, is when you watch Baker Mayfield, and this isn't something that's tangible or anything that you can really say as a football trait, but especially even in that Georgia game where they lost, and you see him on the sideline, there's just something about him when I watched him on the sideline that was like, it was a feeling that I got, and watch the soundbite be played in 2 years of Baker Mayfield. It's terrible, but it's a feeling that I get when I watch some of the great quarterbacks. Just like when I think Georgia went up for a touchdown, and Baker Mayfield was coming out to go match him. It was like in the 3rd, 4th quarter, whatever it was. And there's just a certain like presence and moxie, even just when he's warming up. It was just like a storm's coming type of thing. So I don't get that with Allen. I like Mayfield. He's very accurate, has a lot of good traits, has had to make reads, and I think both of them are somewhat projects, but I'd rather work with Mayfield. I think he's closer. Allen, it's going to take a while. I don't think the Jets have the time to sit through with him like they did with Hackenberg. Allen's going to need at least 2 years. I don't think the Jets have that time, so therefore I'm going Mayfield. Kyle, anything here to add, or we'll go back to Mike?
I agree. Mayfield.
Very concise. Now, Mike, moving forward with we talked quite a bit about the quarterbacks. We'll leave that behind for just a minute. The other big topics of this week. First, we'll talk about the wide receiver position. The Jets interested in Allen Hurns and Terrell Pryor. Apparently, they're in the top 2 for Pryor. They also are very interested in Hurns. Are you interested in one of these receivers? Maybe both. Just where's your preference at in that? I mean, are you surprised that the Jets are looking at a receiver? Just your overall thoughts on the Pryor versus Hurns debate that's currently going on in the Jets front office.
Well, I think the one thing you have to look at with both these guys is I think both these guys that they brought in realize that this is really their last shot. Alan Hearns had a 1,000-yard season, I believe, 3 years ago, and he's just been on this weird decline the past 2 years. And then you look at Terrell Pryor, who had a injury-riddled season, disappointing season last year in Washington. So I think bringing one of them on, I think, is definitely a good thing. I think you're going to get one of their best years because they're going to be on a 1-year prove-it deal. And then also, too, what I like about bringing one of them on is I hope that this just wakes up Robbie Anderson a little bit and makes him realize that his place on this team is no longer guaranteed. Because if we bring in one of these guys, we have Quincy Enunwa, who, by the way, I work for StubHub, but I was seeing Quincy last week because he was interning with our company. So he looked like he was in good spirits. He was excited. He looks like he's ready to go, I think, just by talking to him. So it's a good receiving core. I like it. There's really no number one, but then again, in a West Coast offense, you really don't need that. And I think you're going to see also Quincy line up in the H-back a lot, especially with Safarian Jenkins no longer on the team. You can put Tomlinson at the blocker, Jordan Leggett over there too, and Quincy can line up there sometimes. So I think bringing one of those guys on is good, not just because I think you're going to get one of their best years, but also, too, I really hope it just wakes up Robbie and makes him realize, he's got to get his, act together.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said there. The one thing about the Robbie thing is, look, I mean, you touched on it. The Jets don't really have a number one wide receiver. And you're right, they don't need the West Coast offense doesn't need a number one wide receiver. However, any offense in the NFL needs a red zone presence. And that's the thing the Jets, I feel like, don't have. Whether or not you have labels as this guy's your number one and this guy's your number two or whatnot, the Jets, especially since they don't have a starting tight end, need a guy that can throw to when they're on, the 5-yard line and it's 3rd and goal, and they need some points. I mean, obviously you can do some, pick plays or whatnot, but you want a guy you can throw to back of the end zone. He's going to go get it. And I think that's why they're looking at guys like Pryor and Hearns. And this is something I wanted the Jets to do, so I'm very happy. I don't think, especially with Pryor, I don't think they threaten Robbie Anderson. I think you're right. Robbie Anderson, has had 2 strikes so far against Todd Bowles, and if he has another serious one, especially one as serious as the last one, I think he's seriously in jeopardy. But I think he's here at least for the future, especially off the great year he had last year. But yeah, he's definitely walking. He's on a tight leash. But yeah, I think I would love to bring in Alan Hearns. I know you mentioned it. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. I believe it was 2015. He had a monster season. 2016, he either got hurt or didn't do much. He's just kind of fallen off. But I believe if you put him back in the right offense, the Jets can build some plays for him. I'd be very excited with him as the 4th receiver. And then, yeah, when Enunwa is the H-back, he's just a guy you can go to in the red zone, big body. And then, yeah, if they miss out on Hearns, I think Pryor's the move. Just one of those guys. It's also interesting that the Jets didn't really get in on this market until after they had after they had traded their 2 second-round picks, because Allen Robinson would have been a guy who really would have done this role and so much more. But I think it's like, we don't have our 2 second-round picks, so we're not going to be able to take a guy maybe like Auden Tate in the 4th because we're going to need to draft a edge rusher, a tight end, or whatever. So I think that's why they might be attacking it now. I'd love Hearns. If they don't get Hearns, I'll take a flyer on Pryor. I think he's obviously had a monster year 2 years ago. I think if he's not the number 1 receiver, he's a 4th receiver, just a big body. I'll take a chance on him. Then you have guys like Stewart and Hansen. Hope they step up. Mike,
and absolutely that's the other thing too. Oh, sorry.
No, keep going.
Too as well is that with Stewart and Hansen, I think they're going to want to see something out of those guys. I was really shocked that Ardarius didn't get more playing time. I mean, he made some San Antonio Holmes-like catches in preseason. I just couldn't believe that we couldn't get him on the field last year.
Yeah. No, I agree. And even week 17, he had some, acrobatic catch against New England. And, yeah, I think they relegated him to kick returning and then didn't really play him in a spot that he's a big – or he's not really big, but he's a physical receiver. And
he plays
did
big.
Not – yeah, he plays big, even though I think he's 5'11" or whatever.
5'11".
But he's very physical. He's going to go after the ball. He's kind of like a Jericho Cauchery type receiver, and I'm kind of bummed they didn't really use him more. And you saw guys like JoJo Natson getting some run, and I don't know. I think Hansen is going to be a solid slot guy, but yeah, I'd love to see Stewart get some more run. But I'm very confident in this Jets wide receiving group. All right, 3 positions of need here. I want to get your thoughts on who you think is going to be starting 2018. If you don't have a guy in the drafts, you could just kind of say, I think this is going to be a position they'll target in the 3rd round. But obviously 3 positions of need. We're going to ignore the quarterback. It will probably be McCown, Bridgewater, maybe a rookie if the rookie's amazing. We already know pretty much every other position besides these 3. All right, we'll start with tight end. Obviously, the Jets let Austin Seferian-Jenkins walk. It was interesting. They were playing hardball over $1 million or $2 million. But maybe this is a sign they believe in Jordan Leggett. Mike, who do you think is going to be the starting tight end week 1? Is it going to be a guy like Leggett? Is it going to be a guy that they sign in the next few weeks? Maybe somebody wheels free, a guy they trade for, or a guy they draft?
One of my really good buddies out here went to Clemson, and all he did was rave about Leggett. I mean, he just said that his senior year he really turned it up a notch. And, you got to factor it in. They made a last-ditch offer to Seferian-Jenkins. I believe it was $9 million for those 2 years. He signed for $10 million. I mean, you got to think that if they weren't confident that Leggett could be the guy, that they would have just, given him that extra $1 million or whatever it would have taken to get the deal done. So I'm going to say it's a little bit of a hybrid role right now. Obviously, things could change in the draft with that 3rd round pick, but I'm going to say just in the scheme of, Bulls want to get back to ground and pound a little bit, I'm going to go Eric Tomlinson for now just because of his blocking.
Yeah, I mean, that was that option that pops into my head. Yeah, I mean, Tomlinson made some nice plays. Very good blocker, as you said. And, yeah, when it comes to Leggett, I wonder if that Week 17, I believe it was Neil Sterling, put up some monster numbers just Week 17 out of nowhere. And I wonder if that just kind of factored into, the Jets tight end role really doesn't require a guy that's making $5 million a year. And they love Leggett's ceiling, and they say, you know what, this guy, we know what he can do. We're going to plug him in here. I agree, Tomlinson's terrific blocker. And, yeah, I mean, for his running, he might be, when you see this CBS opening lineup, you might see his face there instead of Leggett. But I think they're both going to get some run. Next position, defensive end, filling in for Muhammad Wilkerson, playing opposite Leonard Williams. Who do you think is going to be playing here? Obviously, they brought back Xavier Cooper. It sounds like they have or are bringing back Coney Ely. In your mind, who's playing that defensive end position?
I believe it's going to be a rotation by committee almost, so to speak. I believe Pinnell or, it's going to be interesting, to say the least. It's a little, obviously, we have Leonard, but I would hope for Coney Ely. I thought he did some great things. I mean, the guy had, I think, 9 pass deflections in very limited amount of snaps. I mean, I saw some good things out of him, but, it's looking like a rotation, by committee, so to speak, right now. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head in both of these. Some fans, including myself, kind of wanted a somewhat flashy signing, maybe like an Eric Ebron for tight end and for defensive end, Vinny Curry or whatnot. But, yeah, I think you're right. They're going to stay in-house, rotate some guys around in both these positions. I think we saw Xavier Cooper do some really nice things towards the end of the year, and Coney Ely did some really nice things towards the beginning of the year. So I think they're going to just rotate it around. If it's passing situations, you might see more of Ely. If it's running situations, you might see more of Cooper. But there might be a guy they draft in the 5th round or a guy who really comes up during training camp that they sign. Who knows? Because, let's think about it. Ely and Cooper joined the team very late. They didn't join in the spring. Ely joined in August, and Cooper signed in like November, October. So I think you're going to see this position as a rotational position. And again, I think that's really going to help out the Jets defense. Even if you're just getting average production, Muhammad Wilkerson was giving you nothing last year, and even if you just get a guy who's hustling, I think you're going to benefit. Last question, Mike. This is the most important one, the one that doesn't look necessarily as clean as, you're going to have a rotational here. This is a big, important position, and it's one that the Jets haven't really paid attention to. Outside linebacker, opposite Jordan Jenkins, your big edge rusher. A lot of people wanted us to sign Cousins and draft Chubb, or now that we've traded 2 second-round picks, we've kind of knocked ourselves out of any of the premier ones. But again, hey, we got Jordan Jenkins in the 3rd round as well. Mike, where are you seeing the Jets addressing this outside linebacker position?
I saw some promising things out of Lorenzo Mold in his rookie year. I thought he did some good things. He just hasn't. Took a step back in his second year. Obviously missed all of last season. He's not really a guy we can count on. I think once again it's one of those Band-Aid, hold the fort roles, and I think just Josh Martin did an, okay job at best. But, and the thing is, now's the time to really invest in that position. Here's why. You think Todd Bowles likes the blitz? I mean, just wait until next season with Trumaine Johnson, Claiborne coming back. He'll be guarding the twos. And what I'm really pumped about more than anything is my man Buster, the poor guy who's I feel like he's been here for 30 years almost. He's going to finally play his natural position in the slot, in the nickel. That's where he's at his best. Blitzing, on the edge. I believe, though, that if Malden can get healthy and stay healthy and get better this year, I think he could have an impact. And I agree with you. It's because we have the press corners now we need in Claiborne and Trumaine Johnson where, okay, now we got to get someone on the edge. But like I said, I just see it either being Josh Martin or Lorenzo Malden. I'm leaning towards Martin. Just Malden is just not a guy that you can trust right now.
Yeah, and the one thing I really want to point out that you mentioned was a guy like Lorenzo Malden, Dylan Donahue. There are a lot of guys that, and this kind of ties back into the whole quarterback trade. When you give up second-round picks and the second round next year, it's kind of going to be rough to build some of your team. It's not all lost. The Jets going to have a lot of cap space, and especially if they hit on the quarterback, it's not going to be a big deal. But if the Jets can get some sort of production on some of these mid-round picks that have just disappeared, even a guy like Devin Smith, who's still on the roster, albeit he's missed the last 2 years, just any of these guys that have been drafted are Darius Stewart, Chad Hansen, Jordan Leggett, as I just mentioned, Devin Smith, even a guy like Dakota Dozier, who wasn't even McCagnon's pick, and you already talked about the guys on the linebacking core, just some of these mid-round picks, if some of those guys can step up, you're really not the impact of losing those second-round picks is not going to be felt as hard. So, yeah, and as far as the outside linebacking position goes, I think they'll probably take a guy with their third-round pick. Kyle, I don't know if you agree with me on that one. I think they'll probably take another guy. I hope they go kind of the opposite of Jenkins. Jenkins was kind of the high floor, lower ceiling, just going to do the dirty work. Not a big-time pass rusher, but he's going to come in, do the dirty work. I'm hoping they kind of go more athletic, raw pass rusher kind of guy and just kind of pair him with Jenkins and see how it works. And then in run situations, if he's not doing too well, you can put in a guy like Martin. Anyways, Mike, I've got to go, but I want to thank you for calling in. You gave some great fire, and I got to be honest. I admire that you're taking a stand against Jets Twitter. Obviously, they're very anti-Allen. I admire that you were able to come on here and share a differing opinion, even though I might disagree with you on Allen. I mean, I know you're not the biggest Allen fan, but a lot of fans are very pro Mayfield, very anti-Allen. You offered a different take.
Hey,
I love it. I love the differing opinions, and we were able to talk respectfully. Kyle, just take note. So, anyways, Mike, thank you for calling in, man. Do you want to shout out your Twitter so our listeners can give you a follow?
Absolutely. I don't have Twitter. I'm on the gram. But if y'all want to follow me there, sorry, I know it's Mickey Braziole, Braciole. Once again, that's Mickey Braziole. Guys, thank you so much. Great show. Looking forward to come back on soon.
Hey, we would love to have you, Mike. You got to get on Twitter. I'm telling you, that's where it's at. That's where you're gonna hear all these Jets fire takes. If I may ask, because 98% of our callers and listeners come from Twitter. Mike, how did you hear about our show?
I follow Joe Crapso on the Turn on the Jets, and I read the tweets. I just don't have my own Twitter, and I saw him retweet that your show is going to be on tonight at 5 o'clock, and to call in. I had a long car ride. I was like, what better way to kill some time than talk some Jets football?
I love it, Mike. Thank you so much for calling in, man. And again, we hope you call back in the coming weeks, and let's hope the Jets land themselves a good quarterback.
Absolutely. Let's go, Jets. Take care, guys.
Hey, you too. All right, Kyle, I got to run. I'm gonna quickly introduce Scott Mason, and then Scott, you and Kyle can run. Scott, I understand if you have any time restraints, you can go as well. But welcome, Scott Mason, the host of Play Like a Jet podcast, to come on and co-host. Surprise! I know I kind of just jumped this on you, Scott. If you have to go at any point, Kyle can handle it by himself. But I've got to run. But Scott, thank you for joining us, man. Play Like a Jet, terrific podcast, terrific host. So I was very confident in my understudy.
Oh, well, thank you, thank you, Ben, and good luck. It's the animal hospital you're going to, right? Is that it?
Yes. The dog, she's just,
Dog's an idiot.
The dog's not very bright. But anyways, I gotta go. Scott, thank you so much for calling in, and Kyle, I hope you guys run a terrific show. And Scott, last time I talked to you on Wednesday, you were so nervous that the Jets weren't going to trade up and get the quarterback. Well, you got your wish, and our listeners get to hear what you heard of that. But that's it for me, guys. You can follow me at Ben W. Blessington on Twitter, or you can follow all my Jets. Or you can follow all my Jets take at the Jet Take. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, Ben, DM me later. I wanted to talk to you off air too.
Okay, we'll do.
All right, cool. Good luck, man.
That's it.
So,
right.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this, man. You told me if the Jets pick Josh Allen, you're going to kill yourself. Are you sticking to that?
Yeah, I'm committed to
that. All right. Yeah.
If you had a shadow of doubt, you were wrong.
I think I tweeted out that if Josh Allen is the pick, then you're going to kill yourself. And does Mike McCagnon want your death on his hands? But I'll tell you though, Kyle,
he'll get it though.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't want that on his conscience. I hope he's sitting there going, I like this kid. He's got a big arm and he's 6'5", but I just can't have he's death on my conscience. If that's the determining factor, then job well done, Kyle.
That is the goal. All right, Scott, you're co-hosting now, and we have one more caller for the night. Scott, I'll let you get all your hot takes in because I know you've been as my chair just turns into like a sound machine. We're going to bring on probably the last caller of the night. Yeah, definitely the last caller of the night. And that's Rick. Rick, thanks for calling in, man. It's my show now. Oh, I didn't unmute him. Now he's unmuted. My show now, my rules. What's going on?
Okay, guys. How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Everything goes. He rules, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's like Street Ball, the podcast edition.
It's all good. So yeah, I've been listening and stuff like that. Yeah, I think I do agree with a lot with some of the takes where, like, for instance, with the moving up, you have to move up for your quarterback you want. And actually, I also kind of want to talk about like a little bit the optics, because people have to listen also to like some of the hearsay and all that other stuff. You know what I mean? Because that's also what comes into some of these decisions. Like the Jets had to move up to 3 because the Colts were aggressively selling the pick already.
Yeah. So
it's almost a guarantee somebody was going to go up. So the Jets, they just probably already had their mind made up. Like I said, this is a pretty good crop. I think I feel like what happened is they saw that there was multiple quarterback, prospects capable of being that franchise quarterback. You know what I mean? I think they probably had a grade where like, yeah, we can actually, these guys, a couple of these guys can actually lead this franchise to the future. So that's why I think they were kind of comfortable with moving to 3. And like I said, they probably, it sounds like they reached out to both the Browns and the Giants, and they refused. And I think with the Giants, like they said, it's that in-house rivalry. So either which way, I don't think they were never was going to get up to 2, with the Giants, because the Giants just know we don't want any part of that.
Absolutely.
But like I said, they had to move to 3 because, like I said, the Colts were aggressively shopping the 3 already. So they already knew that. They probably realized, look, somebody's going to eventually move up to this spot. They probably look, they like I said, from what's hearsay, like the Jets have been, reading up these quarterbacks the whole entire season, even before the college season started. So they probably already got to the point where they're like, okay, we're confident enough to say, okay, we got several, I don't know if it's 3 or 4 or even 5 possibly. We have, like I said, probably at least 3 or 4 that said, look, they were confident that at least these guys or franchise capable prospects. And like I said, with 6, being at 6, they probably realized too, like there's not a chance. Because I've seen some people criticize too, is like, some like, no, they should stay at 6, but it's like, okay, like I said, if you keep in mind, like I said, the Colts were actually shocked being picked. The Browns are probably definitely going to pick a quarterback, or at least one of them. So that's already two QBs right off the board right there. Okay, and then I'm pretty sure if you got like some of them falling down, definitely probably then the Broncos will pick up. So that's 3 right there. And then like I said, so we got Colts. Then
Giants,
you don't even know what the Giants are doing too.
Yeah.
So like I said, at least, so that means at least 3 to possibly 4 will have been off the board by the time you hit 6. And they probably realize that. And they're like, we'll be the one to move up and then worry about whoever else behind, and let everybody else behind us worry about how they're going to move up. So, like, I think that's the thing. Like, people don't realize they need to look at the big picture and hear what everybody else is also doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
There? Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. You thought you just went on that whole speech and we weren't there. That would have been bad. I agree. I think that's exactly what management had in mind. If they were unable to get Kirk Cousins, which obviously we weren't, they knew that they had to make a major play. Time's running out for them, and I think when Chris Johnson became the active owner of the team, he let them know that they needed to find the franchise quarterback, because obviously the Christian Hackenberg thing, the gamble they took there, it didn't work. You lose half of your bets. That's the rule in Vegas, and hopefully the Jets get a win on this one. This was their plan B the whole time. I'm going to guess they had the deal structurally in place like a day after Kirk, signed with Minnesota, or at least made the announcement, not officially signed, but, at least they had a plan, and I think you're absolutely right. They realized that, hey, the guy we want is not going to be there, and we're picking at 6, and we can't settle again, regardless of how good the players we got at 6 last time were. Jamal Leonard, obviously Pro Bowl level talents. Hopefully Jamal makes the Pro Bowl this year, but obviously played great last year. We can't settle for Saquon Barkley or Quentin Nelson or Bradley Chubb again, because those players are great and it makes your team overall better, but you're not winning anything without a quarterback. So it's good to see management taking big strides there. And I said that on Sunday's episode. It was Sunday when the announcement was made that we trade. It was episode 72.5, I guess. That's what we're calling it. But, Scott, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I think they absolutely had to make this move. I think I said this to you guys last week, and I said it on the TOJ podcast with Joe as well. I've been saying it on the nightly podcast that we've been doing, recapping all the free agency. I think you had a situation where, at least to me, there are 3 quarterbacks in this draft class that have Pro Bowl potential, strong Pro Bowl potential. Darnold, Rosen, Mayfield, in whatever order you want to put them in. And so you had to go to a spot where you were guaranteed to get one of those guys, to me anyway. Now, listen, it's possible that Josh Allen is a guy that they like better than Mayfield or even Rosen. For all we know, we don't know what their draft board looks like. And that's one thing that I will say, is that you hear all these whispers, and I'm not going to say that these guys aren't plugged in, obviously. Benjamin Albright, a very plugged-in guy. There are a lot of guys like that. But from all the people that I've talked to that cover the team on a daily basis, the one thing that they will all say to you is that they're all basically playing detectives. No one knows anything for sure because McCagnon is super secretive. And at that point, Kyle, remember, the trade that broke over the weekend, the wheels began turning on that trade basically the day that Kirk Cousins said no to the Jets. We had no idea. We woke up shocked in the morning on the weekend, I believe it was Saturday morning, that the deal had been made. We were stunned. Meanwhile, it had been being worked on for 5 days. No one had a clue. So that tells you that Maccagnan has basically really tightened up the ship and made sure that nobody's leaking things. I mean, look at Tremaine Johnson, for example. We all were like, oh, he'd be a good fit, but we didn't hear anything about him. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, news breaks on Tuesday night, hey, the Jets signed Tremaine Johnson. There wasn't like, hey, Tremaine Johnson's coming to visit the Jets, or the Jets are in talks with Tremaine Johnson. It was just, boom, Jets signed Tremaine Johnson. So I think that people that tell you that they know what the Jets order is are wrong, but I will say that I thought that this is a move they had to make, and I also think that they clearly have 3 quarterbacks ranked closely together. Now, which of those 3 they are, we're going to find out. I would assume.
Please don't be Josh Allen. Please don't be Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's my thing, and I think I said this. If the 3 guys in whatever order are Darnold, Rosen, and Mayfield, then the Jets really can't lose in my eyes because I think all 3 guys are very strong prospects. If one of them is Allen, then that's where this becomes a little bit tricky. I think David Aiken had a really great line, really smart point. He makes a lot of smart points on Twitter earlier. He said that Sam Darnold is what NFL evaluators pretend Josh Allen is. And what I mean by that is that Darnold is the guy that does need some fixing with his mechanics and a little bit coaching up, but that he's the guy that legitimately could become a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, whereas, because we've seen it, whereas Josh Allen, I think the odds of that are just incredibly slim. I'm really looking forward to this Tuesday, by the way, rolling out the quarterback series that we're going to be doing. So anybody that's interested in these 4 quarterbacks that maybe didn't get a chance to watch them all, didn't get to see the tape, or even if you have and you just want to hear different perspectives, we're going to be rolling out episodes, one mid-pod per week for the next 4 weeks on each of the 4 quarterbacks that the Jets are going to be looking at. The first one is going to be Allen on Tuesday.
Into a shout out for your show. How did this happen?
Well, because I'm trying to talk about the quarterbacks, but what I'm getting to is that we're going to do Allen first on Tuesday, and so what we're going to look at is we're going to look at 2 guys that really know the quarterback position very, very well and are going to break it down. Dan Orlovsky, the former 12-year veteran, and Mark Schofield, your friend Kyle, who I believe is your attorney as well.
Can I interject for a second?
Sure.
I love that you brought down Mark Schofield because I was actually going to recommend him already because, you know, he has Inside the Pylon. And if you go on YouTube on Inside the Pylon, he has a breakdown of all their interception of all the top quarterbacks, which I definitely would recommend everybody look at it because to me, when you watch how their interception occurs with all these quarterbacks, you actually see, I feel like the quarterback as a whole because it reveals a lot about how each of them process the position, and not only that, each of them each flaw that each of them have when they play and stuff like that. Like for instance, Mayfield, as accurate as he is, he actually can't throw with anticipation, which I find people always keep knocking, oh, there's wide open. No, he has thrown into tight windows several times over the season. But
many times.
The problem is,
Many times he's thrown into tight windows, Yes.
That's what I'm saying, many times over the season. Multiple seasons.
Sure.
But one little problem he does have, a legitimate problem, is he when he's under pressure, he sometimes will stare down the receiver. You know what I mean? So, like, when you watch some, like I said, like with Mark and his, like I said, inside on the breakdown of interception, you tend to see, you will see some of their like little telltale flaws, and not only that, some of the good parts too, because you'll see that some of them actually know what's their strengths. And you can see that sometimes the interceptions are let out because they're betting on their own strengths a little bit too much. So you kind of get a better picture of each prospect and stuff like that. I just had to mention that.
Yeah, sure. And that's why I asked Mark to come on, and he was willing to come on and talk about the 4 prospects. And as far as Baker Mayfield, we talked strengths and weaknesses. We talked the tape of all 4 guys. We're going to talk to Jim Colburn, who's a really, really smart data and analytics guy, and he's going to break it down from a data and analytics perspective. He had some very interesting findings that I think you'll find fascinating. And then the final part is, for each of these guys, I went to a local reporter who covered their respective team throughout the guy's college career and went for the local perspective. What does somebody who sees these guys day in, day out, covers every game, is around the locker room, covers practice, talks to the coaches, talks to the players, what do they think? Because quite frankly, we get a picture based on what the national media tells us. So local media doesn't really know anything more than what the national media tells us. The people that, to me, have the most interesting thoughts on it beyond the film are the people that are on the ground covering these guys. And I had some really, really interesting conversations with some of these guys. And in fact, a reporter from Wyoming who's really, really good, he's going to be joining me for a very special podcast on Friday from Josh Allen's Pro Day that we'll be doing at TOJ Digital. But what I was going to say about Allen, Kyle, is that the problem for me with Allen is people will talk about he's got the tools, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is the stuff that he needs to fix is the stuff that's, I don't want to say impossible to fix, but incredibly difficult to fix. You don't just get more accurate. When you're missing, and we saw this with Hackenberg, and I think Allen's a better prospect than Hackenberg, but when you see guys completely whiffing on screen passes, wide open screen passes, swing passes, easy crawl routes, stuff like that, when you see that, it's very disheartening. I also think that he would be a really bad fit for what Bates wants to do on top of all of the problems with Allen. I think the thing with Allen is if you picked him as a developmental prospect in, say, the third round, but if you're Mike Maccagnan, and I'm on two schools of thought on this, Kyle, because you brought it up. The quarterbacks that Maccagnan seems to like are, big guy, big arm. We saw it with Petty, we saw it with Hackenberg. It even goes back to the Texans if you believe that Maccagnan had a strong hand in drafting guys like Tom Savage and T.J. Yates, which he very well may have, right? But my school of thought on this is it's possible that he's just going to go that route again, and he's going to say, big guy, big arm, Allen has these tools you can't teach, blah, blah, blah. But the other side of me thinks maybe Maccagnan's learned his lesson now. And I want to give Chris Walker credit. He's the one that really was like, look, Mac, he can't be this dumb, right? Like, you can't do the same thing over and over again, get these results. And then on top of it, listen, it's one thing to draft Bryce Petty in the fourth round and sell him as, maybe we could turn him into something. That's really what the fourth round is for when it comes to quarterbacks, is a guy like Bryce Petty in the sense that he's got flaws, he needs work, and so you take a shot at him in the fourth. But when you take a guy like Christian Hackenberg, and the whole plan is I'm going to rebuild him from scratch because he has all the prototypical tools I like, and then it fails so spectacularly to the point that 2 years into this thing, in a blowout loss the last week of the season when you're already 5-10 in the fourth quarter, and the only other quarterback that's healthy on your roster is arguably the worst quarterback in the league in 2017, and you still can't get this kid on the field, maybe Maccagnan is looking at that and seeing it as, something, maybe it's time for me to look at this in a different way. Maybe, and plus on top of it, you just gave up 3 second-round picks to move up to number 3, and this is going to be certainly the most important draft pick Maccagnan will ever make, but it's also one of the most important draft picks in Jets history because let's be honest about this, Kyle, and I know you're young, so you don't have as much perspective, but you get where I'm going with this. The Jets have been searching for a quarterback for a really, really long time. If they hit on this quarterback, you could be seeing the beginning of the turn of the tide for this team. Look at the Eagles. Look at the Rams. Those are teams that were not all that great, especially the Rams. And then a couple of moves here, a couple of moves there. They hit on Goff. Eagles, they hit on Wentz, and bam, things start to turn around after 2 years. That could be something that could happen for the Jets if they make some smart moves here and there and they hit on the quarterback. So, Maccagnan,
for a little bit, just for a second, I just kind of want to add to what you're already talking about. I kind of want to lean a little bit, not too much, because it's still kind of like, cautious optimism. is he is evolving, because I try to look at what moves he has been making so far, and I kind of want to start from last year's draft, because one thing I think even it was said earlier about him making bets is when he makes a bet, actually he's doing a half-ass bet. You know what I mean? He's still playing cautious even with his bet. You know what I mean? Like, let's take Hackenberg. It was still like a very half, because he went to second round versus trying to go with the first one. Like, because if he liked him so much, why wasn't he go first round pick? So I notice he does that a lot, especially when you look at his first draft, he was really going for a lot of like.
And one would argue that he compounded the error the following year because he thought he still had Hackenberg as his quarterback of the future, and therefore he passed on Watson and Mahomes at number 6. So you could say that the Hackenberg pick set them back in multiple ways, really. I get where you're going with this. He tends to take the path of least resistance. I think that the fact that he made a hard play for Kirk Cousins and then immediately went to make a deal tells you that he knew that they had to solve this problem. And my thing is, all right, you're going to give up 3 second-round picks to get this pick, one of the most important picks in Jets history, and you know your job is writing on this. Man, would it take balls of steel to go up and take a kid who even people that believe in him will tell you has to sit probably for at least a year. So if that is the plan, man, I just – everything
that you also want to add too is what I was going to say too is there is a couple things, two signs that show that Mike is trying to evolve. Like, so I want to go back to last year's draft. So especially versus his previous drafts. If you notice, he likes to try to get like little small guys with like a lot of potential. But this time with this draft, he tried to get more bigger school guys, you know what I mean? Guys from bigger programs, guys who are used to winning and stuff like that. And I do feel like there's a chance that he's not going to do it again. You know what I mean? I feel like because at the same time as he's evolving and stuff like that, look at his picks that he kind of went he starts to go the other way, like Jamal Adams. You know what I mean, are proven to be the better of his picks. So I feel like he should be looking back. He's like, you know what, these guys who come from the better programs, who are used to winning, are actually the ones that are proven to be the better prospects. You know, so I feel like he shouldn't. Like, I do think he's been doing a little bit more self scouting this time around. And I do feel like I feel like he will realize the irony picking Allen, because again, Allen fits the mold that's been failing him already. Small school guy, but super high potential stuff like that.
I mean, I don't know that Christian Hackenberg was a small school guy, and neither was Bryce Petty, but I get what you're saying. I mean, listen, what it boils down to for me is when I look at these guys, I watch the film, I look at the data, and I just, for the life of me, and Kyle, I know you agree with me, and I know Ben does as well, I just don't see how you watch Baker Mayfield and you watch Josh Allen and you watch the full film. I'm not talking about highlights. If you watch the highlights or you just watch the Senior Bowl or something, fine. But I feel like if you really sit down and watch tape and really take a look at the data, I don't see how you possibly come away from that thinking that Josh Allen is a better quarterback prospect than Baker Mayfield. I just don't get it. There's so many things that make no sense to me about it. And it feels like with Mayfield, Kyle, and I want to see what you think about this too. We joked, you and I, about how like people were trying to find ways to discredit Kirk Cousins because they felt like he wasn't supposed to be this good. So it became, oh, well, he can't win big games, or, oh, well, he can't win without this coach, or he can't win without this receiver. He can't put up these numbers again. And every single time Cousins pretty much answered it and still produced, right? And with Mayfield, I feel like it's the same thing. Well, he's too short. He can't. One of the things that I'm hearing now is he can't throw in cold weather, which is nonsense, because if you go back and watch his film, there was one game where he actually lit it up in a snowstorm. So I don't know where this stuff is coming from. They say, oh, we played in a crappy spread off. Look, you don't destroy teams like Ohio State, top competition. You don't do that if you're nothing but a scrubby system quarterback. Say that again?
Can I ask something? Oh, go ahead.
He also
No,
played
Kyle,
Georgia.
what was it?
He also played Georgia quite well, a top-ranked SEC
Yes.
talent defense who will likely
Exactly.
have
Plus points.
5+ draft picks
Pretty
this
plus
year.
points.
Right. And
Yeah,
what I did was I went back and I crunched numbers on this. Against ranked competition in 2017, Baker Mayfield had 17 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, a 69% completion percentage, a 201 quarterback rating, and he had 11.5 yards per attempt. That's elite production against the best competition in the country. And as Ben said, the whole idea, and I think you just said this too, the whole idea that Baker Mayfield did nothing but throw to wide open receivers. He threw in tight windows plenty, and he can. And as Ben said, he can read defenses. We saw the 1-2-3 many times. I think where Baker Mayfield gets himself into trouble is, like you said, sometimes when he is under pressure, he might lock on a receiver, and that's something that's fixable. That's something that's absolutely fixable. And the other thing is sometimes he gets a little bit of a case of cowboyitis, where he. And look, he's not the only one that does this. There are a lot of guys that do this, and whatever. It's a trait it's a good and a bad trait. He can keep plays alive, and then sometimes he just doesn't know when to give up on the play, and he'll make a bad decision rather than just give up. So there are things. But
I also want to add something to that too. Is you're actually right, and another thing he actually does that it's funny, but it also leads to how good he is. Sometimes he actually gets outsmarted by the defenses, where he'll read an initial read, and he'd be like, "Oh, they're playing stupid. I'm going to take advantage of this," and they bait him. He actually gets baited sometimes and stuff like that because like I said, what I like about him is that aggressive personality. He loves to punish defenses and stuff like that. And
there are times where that's going to happen with any quarterback, really. But I think the big thing for me with Mayfield is I feel like, Kyle, if he was 6'4", we wouldn't even be having this discussion. But to me, it's so dumb because you have all these people going out there and they're like, well, he's too short. I don't think that he can succeed in the NFL. I mean, Russell Wilson and Drew Brees are outliers. But if you look at it, he's the same size as Tyrod Taylor. He's an inch shorter than Aaron Rodgers, Andy Dalton, Dak Prescott, and Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't hear anybody saying that Jimmy Garoppolo is too small. And I just think that it's stupid. If you're somebody that can create lanes, which is all you really need to do. I mean, his tackle this year, Orlando Brown, was 6'7". That didn't seem to be a problem for him, right? So he was able to create lanes with his feet, and that's all you really need to be.
Wasn't small. All his linemen are actually, I think all his linemen are measurables, like the same measurables as a regular NFL lineman.
Yeah, they're all big dudes. So to me, it's just stupid. The whole idea that he just played in this crap offense in a crap conference, it gets obliterated when you really take a close look at it at the film and you take a close look at the numbers. I think Mayfield is a guy that.
Scott, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the complaints that they make with Baker Mayfield, right? Now, I don't know if it's just me, but couldn't all that be also applied to Sam Darnold, who everybody seems to make excuse for? Because everything I hear his complaint about feels like it's actually even applicable to Sam Darnold because it's very similar. They do very similar things. Like they both make plays out of the pocket. You know what I mean? They both escape rushes. You know.
I think Darnold looked a little more
offenses.
Yeah, I think Darnold looked a little more nervous in the pocket at times. I think that his mechanics obviously are much more flawed than Baker Mayfield. I think actually Baker Mayfield is more, to me, and I think he's more ready to go. And I don't even think Baker Mayfield's a project. I really believe that he could play right away. I'm not saying he's going to play right away, but I think that he definitely has the possibility of being able to earn the starting job.
But what I'm saying is, if it's true to Baker, shouldn't it be true to Sam Darnold?
Right. Well, that's what I'm getting to. Really, I think it is true with Darnold, but I think that the Josh Allen stuff has kind of swallowed up the Sam Darnold thing, and I think that also people have let the Sam Darnold. Let me put it this way: Sam Darnold seems to be the only quarterback in this class that people aren't really talking much about. I think part of it is because everybody just assumes he's going to the Browns, and part of it is because with the other three guys, there's just sexier storylines. Baker Mayfield, he's crazy off the field, or he's too fiery, or he's too small, or whatever. Josh Rosen, he's too smart, he reads too many books, or whatever. He's arrogant, this and that. Josh Allen, the completion percentage, Wyoming, so on and so forth. And Darnold's kind of slid under the radar. You're right. He has some of the same issues. I think there are some different issues, too. I think, like I said, Mayfield is a more, to me, refined prospect at this point than Darnold, although I think, like I said, David Aiken made a smart point that I think Darnold is what NFL evaluators are trying to convince themselves that Allen is, which is a guy that needs refinement but legitimately could become a top quarterback because the refinement that he needs is much in areas that are much easier to fix than, say, Josh Allen. You're not going to see Sam Darnold missing wide open screens. He may miss some throws, but he's not going to miss layups like that, that kind of thing. And so I think that that's probably why it's gone under the radar. But I definitely think that Josh Rosen, and I know that Ben has said this, I think Rosen is the most polished of the group for sure. I think he's the safest bet, although I definitely think that Darnold and Mayfield have a chance to be better than him. I think that Rosen's the safest play. Here's my problem, and I know you're going to agree with me on this one, Colin, and I'm going to give it to you because you spent way too much time not talking, and that's starting to make me nervous. I'm thinking that you're getting that noose ready for Josh Allen. But
I think he just agreed to what everybody's saying, though.
Well, that could be. That certainly could be too. My big worry with Josh Rosen, and you're going to hear more about this during the quarterback series that we're doing, the medical stuff makes me nervous. Now, listen, the shoulder injury I'm not super concerned about because that's the kind of thing where you trust your doctors and that's it, right? The concussions makes me nervous. And we had 3 of them. 2 of them were within the span of 2 months. It was real scary. And with the way the NFL is now, with the protocol of concussions and the awareness that we have now of the long-term damage that these concussions do, and the fact that Josh Rosen, and I'm not questioning his desire to play football because, look, he doesn't need to play football, right? So if he didn't want to play, if he didn't have that desire to play, he would have quit after the second concussion or whatever. But there does come a point where, again, he's from an affluent family. He doesn't have to play football. He can do other things. If you get another concussion or two, and let's be honest, I know he's not a guy that's always getting outside the pocket, but you are going up against guys that are 6'5", 260, running a 4.5 40 every week who are trying to tear your head off. You get another concussion or two, and now the discussion becomes, well, is it really worth risking my long-term health? Do I want to be 35 years old and not remember why I woke up out of bed that morning when I have other options? And so I worry about his career being shortened. If there wasn't a concussion issue with him, I would say, yeah, absolutely, go ahead. But to me, I would take. I think it's very close between Rosen and Mayfield. I think there are some people that are going to tell you Rosen. There are some people that are going to tell you Mayfield. It really comes down to preference. Each guy does different things better. I think Mayfield has a chance to be the overall better quarterback. I think Rosen is the safer play, at least in the short run. But what worries me and what puts it over the top for me with Mayfield is the concussion situation with Rosen. And as far as Darnold goes, I'm not even really – it's funny because I think that you could make a significantly strong case for Darnold as QB1 only because I think he has that I don't want to say Aaron Rodgers potential, but it's somewhere in that elite top 5 range once he, gets coached up a little bit and gets some of his game refined. So I think you can make that case that he's QB1 if you want to. But the thing for me is that everything I've heard forever and everything I continue to hear for people that know is that the Browns are taking Darnold. So I just feel like it's kind of, it doesn't make a lot of sense to spend a ton of time on Sam Darnold. It's possible he ends up with the Jets, or even that the Jets make another move, which I think would be kind of crazy to do to go to one now. Unless if you think Darnold is head and shoulders is better than the other two, then I guess you could talk yourself into it. But so that's kind of how I look at it. I think if you're a Jets fan, though, ultimately you should be very happy if they come away from the draft with Darnold, Mayfield, or Rosen. You'll have your preference. Some people will.
Can I add a couple of things? Now, I definitely agree with you. I definitely think you make a great point about the health concerns because, like I said, Rosen is a smart kid. And not only that, you're starting to see a trend where players are, they're like, listen, I got a couple million. I'm good for, I'm set with life. I want to be able to live the rest of my life being fully capable. Like you already have on one quarterback. Wasn't it Ryan Leaf or something like that who ended up saying, yeah, I'm not coming back this next season and stuff like that because of health concerns, I think. I'm trying to remember. But, yeah, so.
Definitely wasn't Ryan.
Yeah. I know. I could be mistaken. Like I said,
It was Jake Locker.
Yeah, Jake Locker. You're right, Jake Locker. So
also Sue Cravens recently, who literally went blind from concussions.
Yeah. But so now we're getting
But by the way, let me just interject with this. I just want everybody to know I'm not in any way suggesting that Josh Rosen would be some sort of wimp or shouldn't walk away from football if that becomes the case. Look, your long-term health is your long-term health, period. So if that's the decision that he would make, I would absolutely agree with it. I think, knowing what we know about concussions now, anybody that would blame him for walking away would be crazy, especially since he has options. That said, if I'm a general manager looking to make a pick and I'm looking at a kid who's had 3 concussions and I know that he has options, it gives me pause. Now, would I still pick him? Sure, but would I maybe pick Mayfield and Darnold ahead of him? Also sure. So that's the thing. I understand what you're saying, though. I mean, there's a lot of it's an interesting thing. All I'll say is, like I said, I think the Jets come away from this draft with any of the 3 guys, then it's a win. And I think that they have a guy that they can really build around. I think that Mayfield and Rosen actually fit what Bates wants to do perfectly. I think Rosen fits almost any offense, really. I think Mayfield would be great with a lot of those air raids and RPO type stuff that Bates is probably going to cook up. Darnold really seems to be – this is another reason why I think he's going number 1. Like, Haley has that downfield offense he really likes, and Darnold's a great fit for that. Allen is too, actually, but I think Darnold makes a lot of sense for the Browns. I know that everybody says West Coast because he played at USC, but I think Darnold's ideal offense is more of a downfield type offense. But, I mean, listen, he's good enough that you would take him and figure it out. But I think Mayfield and Rosen would both be really strong in the Bates offense. I wouldn't worry about either one of them. And,
can I add a little, just interject for a second? I do want to add
I was going to throw it to Kyle anyway, so go ahead and then let Kyle do his thing because, like I said, I get nervous when Kyle doesn't talk for too long.
No problem. I'm just going to finish up with this, too, is another 2 things, too, is I think Rosen and Mayfield are the most likely to actually compete for a spot. Because, like I said, even though they question him, if you really...
You mean day one?
Rosen is a very competitive person. He's not the type to, sit down and be, content to just be okay, I'll sit for a year. It's okay. Like Darnold is. You know what I mean? He's the type of person who's going to be I'm just thinking for the team, so I have no problem if you guys want
I don't think that's necessarily true, though. I think all of those guys want to play right away. I think that they'd all be disappointed if they don't play day one, but they probably all realize that they got to do what's best.
Yeah, but I also think they, like I said, especially with Mayfield probably number one. Like I said, Rose and then maybe Darnold afterwards will try to push almost a narrative like, hey, listen, look, I've been playing. I've been making, like in the preseason where he's like, listen, I've been making all these plays. Like, I'm ready. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, they would kind of push to get a start in the NFL because they're that, like I said, they are that confident in themselves.
Kyle, what do you think?
Oh, Scott, I mean, you're kind of carrying the conversation here.
Well, I was trying to throw it back to you, man. That's why I said I got nervous that you were getting the news ready for Josh Allen.
I'm actually, I got to pick a spot for that because I don't know where. I'm looking at my room right now. I don't think the fan's sturdy enough.
Come on, Kyle. What do you think? We're dying to hear.
About Rosen, not possibly walking away?
Yeah, basically who you think is best for the Jets?
Oh, Mayfield, for sure. Just from a personality standpoint, obviously I think as a GM, I think we've expressed that enough throughout these shows. I don't think as a fan. I'm building a core of players who I want to have fire and tenacity, and I'm not saying Josh Rosen doesn't have it, but I'm also saying that Josh Rosen is a quiet individual who's not known for being an on-the-field leader. I've heard that he's a good leader in the locker room, but I can tell you on the field that he's really not, just based on what we've seen. I mean, you can't really deny that. The guy either has fire or he doesn't. I love Baker Mayfield jumping up and down on the sidelines, getting his defense ready to go after he just led a scoring drive in arguably the most important game of his career and getting results out of it and playing well and then backing up his own play and not just being, all bark, no bite. So I want a guy like that. I think that works well for the fans, for the media, and for the franchise. Because you look at a guy like, excuse me as I burp, look at a guy like Jamal Adams, who perfect example of fire and tenacity and then backing up with his play on the field, at least so far in his first season. Those are players that you want in your locker room because they bring that swagger to you. You get a little excited. Fans even buy jerseys. They correlate together, and it's a good fit. When you have chemistry like that and you have a bunch of dogs in your locker room, best believe you're going to get the bone eventually. So I think Baker Mayfield's the best fit.
Yeah, I have a hard time disagreeing with that. I think if, like I said, the concussions are the big worry. Otherwise, I'd be fine with Rosen. I don't know that I agree about the on-field leadership thing. I think that's something that his teammates don't seem to share. As far as what you were saying, I think they seem to think that he is a strong leader. But either way, I think that Mayfield would be great here. Everybody wants to point to that one thing. By the way, the Johnny Manziel comparisons, please just stop it. Stop it.
Let's not even bring in a part of the conversation because it's just so overrated. It to me, the moment somebody brings that up, I feel like, okay, you probably hate Baker Mayfield because that's the only people I ever hear actually bring that up. Everybody else, they actually no, it's so far from the truth.
Yeah, it's a lazy comparison, I think, absolutely. I don't think their games are remotely similar. I think Mayfield miles ahead of where Manziel was as a prospect ever. Kyle, let me ask you, since where we spent so much time on the quarterback, the wide receiver stuff that's going on. You got Terrell Pryor and Allen Hurns. I actually like Willie Snead from the Saints. I think he'd be an interesting one to take a shot at. I think you're late round tender on him. He's only 25 years old. He had an off season last year where apparently he showed up to camp out of shape and just never got out of the doghouse. But I think he could be worth the flyer there. My problem with Terrell Pryor, everybody is saying take a shot at him based on what happened 2 years ago in Cleveland. My problem is I lived in D.C., and Dalvin Osorio will back me up on this as well. He was a nightmare for the Redskins. He came in. He couldn't even play well enough to get on the field. He caused problems in the locker room to the point where he actually had to apologize to his teammates. I think that happened around November. Then he got hurt, and that was it. So it was just a complete waste, and he was known to be a pain in the butt in Cleveland as well. They tried to keep him anyway because they had developed him and he had become a good player there, or that particular year he produced. But I don't want anything to do with him. I think they're trying to build a strong culture of players with the right attitude, and that's not a guy I'm interested in, especially after what I saw in DC last year. Alan Hearns, whatever, he might be worth a flyer, I guess. He's a tall guy, maybe in the red zone. You could do something with him. His production's kind of dipped the last couple of years. What do you think, Kyle? Any interest in any of those three guys, Hearns, Terrell Pryor, or Willie Snead?
Willie Snead was suspended last year for 3 games, if I can recall correctly. I don't want to throw any accusations out there for him. I think it was PEDs or some sort of substance, because I remember drafting him in fantasy football thinking, man, this kid's going to be great this year. Drew Brees only has Michael Thomas with him. You know, they used to be Brandon Cooks and Michael Thomas. Now there's going to be nobody to cover the number 2, and then he got suspended. And I was like, well, dropped him that day. So, I really don't want any more suspended guys. Somebody look up why Willie Snead was suspended. I'll keep talking.
I'm going to do that. Keep talking, Kyle. I'll look it up.
Yeah, and then Terrell Pryor obviously had a good year in Cleveland, signed a prove-it deal like a bunch of free agents did last year, and didn't prove it with a quarterback who just made a lot of money. So, I mean, take what you want out of that.
4-game suspension that got – Kyle, I'm sorry. It was a 4-game suspension that got reduced to 3 games. It was because he crashed into a parked car and failed a breathalyzer test.
Okay, so we have enough DUIs as is. So we probably don't need that guy. The Lincoln Tunnel is very confusing, so I've been told. I don't know if Willie can transition.
Nice job.
Thank you. So I'm going to stay away
from... on the Jersey side it really is.
I don't think alcohol helps it.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Continue, Kyle. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I'm taking a pass on Pryor and Snead. Alan Hearns, him and Allen Robinson, they tore up the league with Blake Bortles as a bad Blake Bortles as their quarterback 2 years removed from now. So, I mean, he has a lot of talent. He's been putting up numbers for a consistent 3 years now. He's a good player. I mean, there's a reason he has about 8 visits lined up already. It's unfortunate that the weather got in the way and he gets to go to Jerry's World first with a Pro Bowl level quarterback and a Pro Bowl offensive line and a Pro Bowl running back and just a good franchise top to bottom. I hope the Jets, sweeten the deal a little bit if they want him badly. But at the end of the day, if we don't get him, it's not a huge loss. We're still going to have Quincy.
May I add? I just want to say this, the 10 seconds. To be honest with you, all these moves seems to be just insurance for Quincy and Enunwa, because it seems like the guys are in a similar mode to Quincy and Enunwa. And like when I heard, especially once I heard about Hunt, I'm like, is it me or are they trying to get guys as insurance for Quincy and Enunwa? Because they all seem to be similar molds.
Yeah, they're definitely looking that. I mean, should we take that as a warning?
I think it's a combination of Enunwa and even ASJ to an extent, because from what I gather, the Jets are going to roll with Jordan Leggett and Eric Tomlinson and Sterling and just kind of go that way. They like Leggett. They think that he can put up at least ASJ, and I like ASJ, but let's be honest, the production he put up wasn't anything super tough to replace. So I think they think that Leggett can do that. So maybe they think, ASJ, the big 6'5", 6'6" guy in the red zone, Enunwa coming off the injury, maybe they just want that guy that in the red zone that they can throw the jump ball up to, and the guy can just go up and get it. So Hearns fits that bill. I mean, look, he didn't produce all that much last year or the year before, so he's done a downside. But, yeah, he's a talented guy. He's got size. And he's one of those take-a-flyer types. I would be curious to see, I was mentioning this possibility today when I was talking to somebody in Oklahoma, what about the idea of if the Jets, let's say, were to pick Mayfield first and Mark Andrews the tight end in the third? You solve two needs of sorts because the Jets could use a tight end to replace Austin Seferian-Jenkins. You get Mayfield, and then now you have these guys who are best friends on and off the field. From what I understand, they've been hanging out all week as Mayfield's been doing his visits. He's been hanging out with Mark Andrews. The idea of him having his best friend and his security blanket, who's also a talented tight end there with him, could be interesting. It was part of why I liked the idea of bringing in Spencer Long with Kirk Cousins, because I thought, you bring in a guy at center who he's comfortable with, that's a nice connection. So that could be something, but I think that's really what Hearns is. They want a red zone weapon. You could view it as he's insurance against the Nunwa. You could view it as he's a guy that could help replace the threat that ASJ could have given you down in the red zone, but I think that's mainly what they're looking for. They want that guy that whoever the quarterback is, whether it's McCown, Bridgewater, or the rookie, that they have somebody in the red zone that they can just toss that ball up to and that guy can go up and get it.
Do you think Andrews even going to last the third round? I heard he's one of the top-ranked tight end prospects this year, though.
I think the best tight end is Gobert from North Dakota State. I think that's it. It's something like that. He'll go like mid-second round. So I think anybody below him, and he's my personally number one tight end. I don't know about anybody else because I'm going to be honest, I haven't looked at a lot of tight end rankings this year. Anybody below him, which Andrews is, I think Andrews is my second or third. I'll have to check. But they'll be available in like the third round.
I could see Andrews being available in the third round. I mean, the question is going to be how the board breaks because obviously if you get to – here's an interesting thing because you and Ben were talking about this, Kyle, and I want to throw this name out at you. Nobody expects him to necessarily fall this far, but there are some red flags. He's the guy that's not necessarily as refined and has some off-the-field issues, shall we say, but a guy that's super talented, and he's the kind of guy that has that, like, top 10-ish talent, and if he wasn't such a red flag monster, maybe he would go that high, is Arden Key. Yeah. So I wonder if he dips somehow to the third round, if you're the Jets, do you look at it and say, listen, we got our quarterback at number 3. If we get this guy and we can find a way to kind of tame him and keep him in control, and we team him with Jordan Jenkins, it could be a potentially good duo on the outside. It's a risky pick because you don't know what you're getting from him in a lot of ways, but he's got that ability, and you know that if you can keep him on the straight and narrow. What do you think, Kyle? I think it could be an interesting possibility. People don't seem to think he'd last, but I think it's definitely possible that he could dip into that third round.
I think he had a little bit of
Go ahead. I'll
start.
add afterwards. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think he had a little bit of a down season this year. I know he was really high on a lot of boards. In fact, I think he was the number one prospect going into the year by a lot of guys who I respect.
Yeah.
Obviously, the red flags, I know there's a lot of them, so I'm not even going to name all of them. And then the poor season on there piled on. I mean, he's hurting himself. I think he'll make up for it in the second contract, though. I think
he could.
Sorry, just want to add. I feel like I don't feel like they're necessarily going to go after this because those don't seem to really emphasize on a outside linebacker so much, and he seems also with. I don't know if it's just me, but it seems like they favor like outside linebackers that can kind of do a little bit of everything, Which I think he's more of a rush specialist kind of.
The question is going to be whether or not they finally realize that it's time to stop that nonsense because they haven't had a real outside. I guess the term that Mike Pettin, who's now the defensive coordinator in Green Bay, used to like to use was bitch kitty pass rusher, and meaning a guy that
language.
All right, Kyle. Like you haven't said far worse. No, but a guy. It's a guy that.
Foreskin?
Yes, exactly. He's a guy that on the outside is a major presence. A DeMarcus Ware, a Von Miller. Khalil Mack somebody along those lines that can just be a disruptor, be a double-digit sack guy every year, be a guy that opposing defenses have to double and triple team and be scared to death of every time they play up against them. That's kind of the guy that they need. And that was why I thought that the dream scenario would have been to sign Cousins and get Chubb at number 6. Unfortunately, that's kind of out the window now. But it's interesting with Key. I think he's got a lot of ability, like you said, a down season, a lot of red flags. Maybe he finds his way to the third, and if he does, could be an interesting possibility. The question is if Foles and McCann, A, are willing to take that risk, and B, if they're, like you said, willing to break that mold, because they seem to go for these guys like Lorenzo Malden is more of a try-hard type of player. He's not a super gifted guy, per se, as it comes to guys at that position. Jordan Jenkins, certainly a good player, but he's not a guy that's dynamic. You can't expect him to be a 12-sack-a-year type of threat. So the question is, Rex Ryan had that same problem. He just felt like he didn't need somebody like that, but this is the NFL in 2018, man. You need somebody like that. The most successful teams typically have, home run pass rushers. They don't have to manufacture pass rushes and such. So it'll be interesting. I think he could be.
Just real quick, Scott, I actually share your sentiment. I actually love if they did draft Key because I think he fits the system well, especially because the way the system is set up, I feel like he'll be free to roam to go after the quarterback too. I feel like the system will allow him to do what his strengths are.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he's used properly. I think so. Well, here's another one for you, Kyle. I want to throw this out at you. I know he signed Isaiah Crowell, but Bilal Powell is 29. He's going to turn 30. He's on the last year of his deal. Crowell's not a guy that can really catch out of the backfield, and he's really more of a.
Is that? I think he's top 20, and if I read that chart correctly, like he's top 20. Oh damn! I just messed up. I think he's top 20 and like receptions over the past 3 years. If I read that correctly.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a difference. I don't even know if that's true, but there's a difference between.
It's probably inflated, but.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a difference between catching, swing passes and actually doing. Yeah, right, exactly. But so here's a question. Joe Malfa, as you know, who's a machine right now, he's on some sort of speed demon type thing going on right now as he gets ready for draft season. One guy that he loves, and I'm a big fan of as well, is Rashad Penny, the running back from San Diego State. Now, I know this is before your time, but there was a gentleman that got drafted in the 1994 draft from San Diego State, a running back who turned out to have a fairly decent career, I would say. Not that I'm comparing the two, but Rashad Penny is a guy that I really like. The question is now, Kyle, not that running back isn't necessarily a need, but if Rashad Penny makes it to the third round, is it a situation where if you have that rookie quarterback, now you give him another dynamic weapon to play with, or do you look at it and say, well, I like Penny, but there are other areas I can go, maybe a pass rusher, or maybe there's another guy in the secondary or offensive line depth or something like that. Like, what do you think? Or even Andrews or something like that if he's on the board. What do you think of the idea of Penny or a different running back if someone's available in the third?
Okay, so this is going to be the last question for Rick because we have a couple other callers on the line. We got to wrap up.
Actually, I'm about to go anyway. It's okay. I could just say bye right now. It's okay. It's cool. Let me go.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate the call, man.
Rick, call in next week, man.
Thanks, man. All right, bye.
Okay, so that was Rick. We didn't really get his social media or anything. But to answer your question, one, who was the running back in 94? I'm trying to think of it.
Marshall Faulk.
Yep. Okay, there it is. How did I forget that? I knew there was a running back from San Diego State that was like, the first thing I thought was Donnell Pumphrey, and I was like, nope, that was 2016, not 1994. I was drawing a blank, but I knew there was like some good one. I really like Penny. I think, Malfa brought him up in the group chat one day, and I was like, hey, I'm kind of just discovering this guy too right now. He's pretty good. He broke a lot of Pumphrey's records, and Pumphrey, broke all of Falk's records. So, statistically, whatever that San Diego State offense is doing, they're doing something right with running backs. As of right now, 2 running backs look to be drafted in the past 2 years. Good for them. For Penny's a good talent. He's the definition of small, if I was to be 100% honest with you. But he's a good running back. He can find open
What
holes.
are his measurables?
Ooh, I want to say 5'10".
It's more the weight with a running back, though. The height
Yeah.
doesn't really matter that much.
He's like, and this is like the time, let's see, on his high school thing, I should probably...
Well, we got to look at his college,
Yeah,
because obviously, high schools.
Yeah, he's bulked up a little bit. Rashad Penny, Combine. He went to the Combine, right?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
They have him at 5'11", 220, but 220 is like, I want to say that's very generous.
That's thick enough, though, if he's 220. I mean, obviously it was a different era in some ways, but Curtis Martin was 205, so.
I want to say Rashad Penny does not play like he's 220, and I think they measured that when he was soaking wet, and he probably drank like 8 gallons of water the night before. He had
just eaten 3 pies of pizza, yeah.
Yeah, he is lucky to crack 215 on a very heavy day for him in reality. And Combine, guys do that. They give up a couple, 0.2 seconds of speed for weight just to make themselves better. A lot of running backs do that. But Penny's a small guy. Like I said, he's got breakaway speed. There's a lot to love about him. So, yeah, I'd be open to it.
He can do everything, really. I think he's a really talented back.
He also doesn't he kick return and punt return too?
Yeah, he's pretty much he's everything you would want in a running back, I think. And this is another reason why, and then we'll go to the next caller, that I think, listen, the Giants can do what they want, but Saquon Barkley at number 2 just seems insane to me. Like, you have Eli Manning, who's 37, and let's be honest, is completely washed at this point. Even if you were to talk yourself into the fact that Eli Manning still has something left in him, and you're going to stick with him and not pick a quarterback, how do you pick Saquon Barkley at number 2 rather than trade down and pick up a ton of extra assets? We'll see if the Giants actually do it, but the fact that guys like Rashad Penny and Ronald Jones from USC and several others are in this draft and they're all really good, I'm not saying Barkley's not an excellent player that would make a team better, of course, but I just don't understand using the number 2 pick on a running back when A, there's an opportunity to get a king's ransom, or B, there's an opportunity to get the franchise quarterback to replace Eli, or C, there's, of course, the fact that there's so many good running backs in this draft. So, I don't know. We'll see what the Giants do, but if they pick Barkley, I'm just going to chuckle a little bit.
Yeah. I think I would be happy, actually, because he's a good talent, but then I would go on a Twitter tirade about, how we wasted 3 second-round picks when we could have got him at number 6.
No, I'm talking about the Giants.
Oh.
At number 2.
Well.
I'm saying if the Giants were to pick Barkley, because I'm saying based on guys like Penny and Ronald Jones and several others being in this draft, all very good, if the Giants were to pick a running back at number 2, it would just make no sense to me. So, by the way, Kyle, you know what? Since you brought it up, with Barkley, like the trading up to number 3, the 3 second-round picks or whatever, real quick before we go to the phones, what do you think about this hypothetical I came up with over the weekend? If I made you pick, if I said at number 3, you have no choice whatsoever. You can only pick Josh Allen or Barkley. Which one would you go with?
We discussed that earlier. There was a Twitter poll about it on Michael Nania's Twitter.
Michael Nania ripped me off, that bastard, because I said that days ago. I'm going to have to yell at Michael for that.
You got cucked. You got cucked. That's what
I did. I got completely cucked, dude. But anyway, so what were you guys talking about with it?
Because I brought it up to Ben, because obviously Michael's his boy. He's his dick rider. Yeah, Ben's not.
That's not nice.
Yeah,
Ben not here to defend himself.
Oh, that's okay. It's a shame. Without hesitation, I voted Saquon Barkley, and to my surprise, 61% of the people voted Josh Allen, and hence my tweet. I don't know if you saw it. It was like 61% of you are either A, very dumb, B, misguided, C, under the influence, or D, something else. And it got a couple 30 tweets, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I guess a lot of those people are kind of the way my brother would be, which is they've waited so long for a quarterback, they made this aggressive move. They'd rather just take Josh Allen and hope for the best rather than take a running back. But I'm with you, Kyle. I think that as much as I would be infuriated that they traded 3 second-round picks to go up to number 3 for a running back, if I'm looking at it objectively and I think you have a quarterback who has a very small chance of success and a running back who has a very large chance of success, I'd have to go with the running back that I think has a very large chance of success at number 3 at least. If this is the third round, it might be a different discussion, but there's no way that I would be able to justify coming away from the number 3 pick with a guy that I was convinced had very little chance to be successful in the NFL. So I agree with you, man. I think the people that are saying Allen either like him a lot better than we do as a prospect, or they're just, well, we got to get a quarterback, so let's just take Allen and hope for the best.
Yeah, they're dumb. All right, we're gonna go on to our final caller of the night, and this is a person who has not called in a while, and I'm actually very excited to have him on, and that is the man, the myth, the legend, the GOAT, Hakeem. Hakeem, you're unmuted.
Hakeem!
Hey, Kyle. How you guys doing? Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Yo, Hakeem, how's McDonald's doing?
I don't know.
Do you get that reference or no? Or am I too old here?
You're too old.
No, I mean I don't get it.
Do you ever see Coming to America?
Right. I have seen that in many
Prince
years.
Hakeem, Eddie Murphy's character, Prince Hakeem.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Got the amazing Jets and Nick starter jackets.
There you go. Yeah. So that the reference is because he's Prince Hakeem, and I said, "How's McDonald's doing?" Because in the now you get it. Yeah. Yep. So all right. Anyway, now that I had to explain my old man reference, let's carry on.
No worries, man. You guys were talking about the prospects, especially third round, the day 2 picks. I'm a big draft guy too, so I wanted to just throw this question at you guys right away. Let's say you're, on the board at third round and you got these possible prospects, because I like Rashard Penny a lot. I also like, let's say James Daniel or Billy Price is there as well. And then, but this is my favorite third round prospect, Lorenzo Carter. Let's say all those 4 prospects are there. Who are you guys taking?
Ooh, tough one.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle. You take that one first.
All right. I knew you were going to do that. I'm going to go with Billy Price, without question. I think he's a first-round talent. It's unfortunate what was it? The pectoral tear at the combine, partial pectoral tear. First-round talent who just at a pure positional, lack of need in this draft, it seems that he wasn't going to be a first-round pick, even though he has the talent for it. And if we can get him in the third round, that would be an absolute steal for the Jets. So I'm taking him, and it's a position of need, regardless of the Spencer Long contract. It's a 1-year contract.
You could move Spencer Long to guard, yeah.
Yep, you can move him at depth anywhere, and it's a 1-year contract. When you really look at the guarantees and stuff, it's kind of a prove-it deal. The Jets actually did a phenomenal job with contracts this year, just the way they worded them and stuff.
Yeah, Connor Hughes broke that down over at The Athletic about how they put themselves in a position to be able to get out of most of these deals pretty quickly.
Yeah. It seems that I made that point this offseason. McCagnon always has a way of doing that. He did it with Revis, did it with Cromartie, did it with Brandon Marshall. Eventually the David Harris one. I think he extended David Harris, right? Like when he got into town?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we got out all those pretty quickly, and $100 million in cap space 2 years in a row. So I think he knows what he's doing with the verbal part of, or not verbal, but language part of contracts and getting out of them and stuff. So drafting a center in the third round who's a first round talent and has produced at a very high level, and arguably the hardest division of college football to be a successful offensive line in. I mean, the Big Ten is no joke. I mean, you looked at they're in the playoffs, I think, every year so far, except this year. I know it's college football playoff, only been around for a couple of years, but Ohio State, the model of consistency, regardless of what happens to them, and, Maxwell Award winner, very good player, very good pick in the third round. I mean, I think that would be a good pick in the second round So I would be very happy with that.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with any of those guys. What do you think Carter's ceiling is, Kyle?
Whose?
Lorenzo Carter.
If I'm going to be honest, I haven't watched any film of him, so I don't want to lie to you guys.
All right, Hakeem, what do you think?
Man, I like Lorenzo Carter a lot. Honestly, I really see, like, the sky is the limit for him. I see him all the way. He can turn into a Vic Beasley, man. I think this guy is tremendous. I think he's really underrated. Obviously, that's his, like, max potential. But this guy is fast. He comes from Georgia. I think pairing him up with Jenkins on the outside would be a real nice force for us. But I just like Lorenzo Carter. I like the motor he plays with. I love the tenacity he comes off the edge with. And I think he's versatile too, I think he can cover as well. So you can keep him in on nickel downs or drop him back in coverage. So he's one of my favorite prospects, but I really like James Daniels as well.
Yeah, all of those guys that you mentioned, I'm not sure how many of them make it to the third round. I think a lot of them could go in the second. But you really couldn't go wrong. Kyle pinpointed Price. I think Price is really, really good. I don't know that he's going to necessarily be as good as Nick Mangold. I know the comparisons are there because they both went to Ohio State, but I think he's really, really good. He could fortify that center position for a long time. I think Rashad Penny is the kind of dynamic running back that the Jets really haven't had since, let's be honest, I mean, I guess you could say he's a bigger Leon Washington in some ways. Thomas Jones is the last time that the Jets had a really good running back in the prime of his career, because when LaDainian Tomlinson got here, by that point, he wasn't the same player anymore. Chris Ivory had a nice season. The god, Sean Green. Sean Green was obviously drafted. And this is, Kyle's going to yell at me again for plugging my show, but this is another thing that we talked about, and we're in the middle of now on 2009. We're doing on Play Like a Jet. Thomas Jones is on the show, and I brought up to him because when he was in Chicago, they drafted Cedric Benson, number 4 overall, after he had put up monster numbers. And then the Jets, after Thomas Jones had put up monster numbers, went out and they drafted Sean Green. So it was kind of one of those weird things where it's like, hey, dude, what more do you have to do? They want to keep replacing you no matter how good you are. But the Jets haven't had a running back in the prime of his career who really was a top-level producer since Thomas Jones. So you couldn't go wrong with Penny. You couldn't go wrong with – I think I like what you had to say about Carter. You're really bullish on him. I'll be honest, I've watched a little. I need to watch more, but I certainly like what I've seen. If Arden Key dropped to the third, there's a lot of red flags, but he might be a risk worth taking because I think he obviously has high first-round talent. It's just a matter of Kyle put it lightly. There's so many red flags that it would probably take us an hour to list them all. So I don't know, man. Any of those guys, if they're available in the third, would be quality picks and certainly useful. I don't know how you could go wrong with any of them. I think they could all be really, really strong picks. The other one that I threw out there, depending on if the Jets take Baker Mayfield and depending on who you ask, some people think that there's actually a chance they would. Some people seem to think that they wouldn't. But I think Mark Daniels would be interesting too. I brought him up. That's Baker's tight end and also his best. Say that again?
What about his brother Jack? I mean, he's an interesting prospect. I know there are a lot of players on our team.
I was just gonna say we might want to keep Baker away from his brother Jack, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But Mark Daniels is a good tight end. I think that he could be a good player. He could certainly replace Austin Seferian-Jenkins and maybe do some 2 tight end sets with him and Leggett. And he's got a familiarity and a comfortable. I guess you would say a comforting relationship with Mayfield since they are best friends. It'd be a nice security blanket for him coming in if Mayfield's the pick. So I think there's just a lot of guys that if they fall to that third round would be interesting. I like that question, Hakeem. Those are a lot of really good players. I don't know how many of them fall to the third, but any of them would be good, I think.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't think a few of them will definitely not make it there. But I just wanted to pose a nice question, with all those talented players. I really like Penny, too. I think he's a home run hit, special teams on offense. So, yeah, absolutely. You can't go wrong. I just wanted to see where you guys were on, where you guys were with those players specifically.
Just so you know, Hakeem, I already talked to Joe Caparoso. Joe Malfa and I are working on this. if the Jets do get Rashad Penny, we have to get in the TOJ store at theloyalist.com/turn-on-the-Jets, we have to get shirts that say knock, knock, knock Penny. Have to.
I don't get it.
Have to.
Big Bang Theory, you don't watch it?
Oh. Oh, okay.
Hakeem, do you watch Big Bang Theory?
I've watched Big Bang Theory, absolutely.
All right. Long story short, basically the main character, or one of the main characters, Sheldon, has this like weird habit where whenever he knocks on a door, he has to knock 3 times, and each time he has to say your name. And his next door neighbor's name is Penny, so he's constantly going knock, 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 Penny, knock, 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 Penny, knock, 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 Penny. So there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Classic.
So what else is up, Hakeem? What else is on your mind, my man?
Well, you guys also made a comment when I got on the phone, about that Twitter poll about Barkley versus Allen, if those are the only people left at 3. And, Kyle said the people that voted Josh Allen, the 61%, are dumb. But I'm sure he was kidding. But, and I know Kyle and I, we have great respect for each other. And obviously I listen to your show all the time, Scott, as well.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And but I am one of those guys that would easily take Josh Allen.
I knew it when I said it. I was going to say something like, I hope he isn't one of the 61% that I just insulted. Why?
No, and listen, it's not because I want to take a quarterback to take a quarterback. I'm actually one of the few people that actually believe that Josh Allen is going to be a very high-quality quarterback when it's all said and done. When I watch the tape on this guy, I see a fearless quarterback. I see a guy who likes to extend plays. I see a guy that obviously can make all the throws. But I love the intangibles. I love that he played basketball and baseball in high school. I love his athleticism for his size. And, when I try to put myself in his shoes, imagine yourself as the best player on your team, and then every game that you go into, you know that you're outmatched at every position except probably quarterback.
Is that true, though?
To win that game, I mean, I think it is true because
in the Mountain West?
Well, maybe not, all the time, but I felt like, to give himself a chance to win, to give his team a chance to win, he had to take a lot of risk. And he did play in a style that was maybe too risky for the NFL. We're going to definitely have to scale that back. But I like what he has, and I think he can be molded into something really special.
Can I play devil's advocate? Can I play devil's advocate on here?
I have a joke.
Yeah, go ahead, Kyle. Yeah, go.
You know who else played with bold strategy and was trusted with something?
A lot of people, I'm sure, in history.
Mussolini. Didn't work out for him, did it?
I knew you were going to go history.
Well, jeez. Kyle Smith is wincing in a corner right now somewhere.
Yikes.
But yeah, no, I mean, let me play some devil's advocate here, Hakeem. Let's start with this. Can you name me the last guy that was as poor a college producer as Allen, especially at a small school? In the modern era, I'm not, you could go back to like 1982 with Dan Marino, but it was a different era, Phil Simms, different era. In the modern era, can you find me a guy that was this poor a producer in college and then went on to become?
No, I don't believe it exists out there. And obviously,
I believe
he's an outlier.
I give you credit for admitting that, by the way, because a lot of people that defend him will just try and give me stupid examples. But I credit you for admitting that.
Right. But, well, listen, I mean, that's just, I trust my eyes with the film. I see, the type of style he has. And under pressure, I see that he's fearless. Like, he can step up in the pocket. Yeah. And he can take, a blitzing linebacker in his face and release, a nice pass. Obviously, he's got to work on his footwork. Obviously, he's got to work on his mechanics and accuracy. But I really like Bates to help him get that fixed.
But what do you think about the fact that he misses? What do you think about the fact that he misses a lot of layups, like a lot of layups? Like that's very concerning.
No, absolutely. That part is concerning. But as you watch his progress, at the scouting combine, obviously you're just watching tape. I feel like he's been working on it, you know. I also like the fact that he's worked under center in a pro-style offense. But, no, he's got to fix that up. But, you know, in a way, the Jets have subsidized their quarterback situation because let's say, you know, they get Josh Allen because he was the only guy that was there. Obviously, I'd be happy. Other Jet fans would be upset. And he needs 8-10 weeks. Well, we have two other capable quarterbacks in McCown and Bridgewater to, you know, get that job done, to show.
Well, to be fair, we don't know that because we don't know what Teddy Bridgewater has left in the tank, but I got you.
But, yeah, we were intrigued, right? I think the whole NFL is intrigued. And,
absolutely.
I think he definitely has a great chance to bounce back. And, you know, I feel like our quarterback situation is in a really good place after we, you know, pick our guy. But you know what? Josh Allen, just to be, you know, straightforward, he's actually number 3 on my board, my quarterback board. I have Rosen, Darnold, and then Allen. But I like all of them a lot. I like Baker, too, and he's number 4. But I view him as more of a top 10 pick. But I view the other 3 as a top 5.
Okay. Here, let me play a little devil's advocate for you again with Allen, if I could. Like, this is my thing, right? I just think that there's never been anybody like him who's succeeded. I think that the problems that he seems to have are the toughest ones to fix. The missing layups, the accuracy issues, the fact that he just has trouble reading and processing. There's a lot of things with his game that just seem to be very tough to fix. I think that when you look at that, when you look at the fact that he's had a lot of trouble playing against inferior competition in a bad conference, it just, to me, it's such a leap to believe that this guy's going to go to the NFL and playing twice a year against Bill Belichick, those are things that are going to get better. I think that when you trade 3 second-round picks to move up to number 3 for arguably the most important draft pick that this franchise has had in God knows how long, certainly at least since 2009 when they drafted Mark Sanchez, and arguably longer than that, to take a risk on a guy that you admitted, Hakeem, even though you like him, would be a complete and total outlier if he were to succeed because there's so much working against him. I can't fathom doing that. To me, that's like playing Powerball and expecting to win. I mean, it's not impossible, but it just seems so unlikely. I think the other 3 guys are all so much more – I just think there's so much more there to indicate to you that they would become – good NFL quarterbacks, and I just think that a guy like Allen, to pick him number 3, I mean, look, again, if you picked him in the 3rd round or something like they did with Petty, you know, they picked him Petty in the 4th, but you picked him in like the 3rd or 4th, or even, I'll even grant you this, if you do the Paxton Lynch thing, although I would say Lynch was a much better college producer, and picked him like, you know, toward the end of the 1st round, I could maybe say, all right, take a flyer on, but I just, at number 3, you see where I'm coming from, Hakeem? It just seems like such an incredible risk.
No, absolutely. I mean, all your points are definitely spot on. You cannot argue against that. The only way that I see it, obviously, he's got the lowest floor because based on production, based on the tape that he's put out there. But you cannot deny the potential. And obviously, it's a huge risk. It's still a risk at 3, but I'm a former football player just in high school myself, and, you know, I think myself just like Kyle Fahey does for himself that we're one of the best talent evaluators, you know, out here. So I'm putting my
Kyle doesn't think he knows, right, Kyle?
Exactly.
I've never been wrong about anybody.
So
you and Ed Gorelick, never wrong.
Yeah. Backed up.
But I like the player. I like the person Josh Allen is, and I love the.
He's a great. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It looks like he's the Amanda Bynes from She's the
Man.
Yes,
I did see that.
That was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life because I recently watched that movie and I was like, oh damn, they really got him right there.
They look alike.
Yeah, Hakeem, I hope you'll listen to the quarterback series we're doing because we're starting with Josh Allen on Tuesday. And
how do you manage
one of the guys?
Every time he turns into a
I was in radio for 10 years, Kyle. I know how to do promotion, so that's just. I mean, I'm trained to do it. But no, in all seriousness, one of the people that is going to be on the show is a Wyoming beat reporter who covered Allen the whole time he was in Wyoming, and I learned a ton from him. Oh, well. I mean, listen, it's the most exciting thing that's happened to Wyoming in a long time, Wyoming sports for sure, in many years, at least in 2 decades probably. And I learned a lot from him because, and I made this point earlier, you learn so much more, I think, from people that are on the ground there locally, that are around the team every day, at the practices, in the locker room, talking to the players, talking to the coaches, than you do from some idiot on ESPN who, oh, yeah, I think this guy's good, whatever. All right, what do you really know? You're just hearing third and fourth-hand stuff. So I had a guy on who knows Josh Allen personally, who's talked to him a zillion times, who knows his relationship with the coaches and his players, and who knows what Josh Allen, the man, is like, what he, what the family, the type of family he comes from. What?
Nothing.
but all of these things. But what I'm getting around to is that. And look, you'll hear all about it. Like I said, I hope you listen on Tuesday. But Josh Allen sounds like a really good dude. And I've yet to hear anybody say anything bad about him on a personal level. It's never been, and I made that clear today because I said, I feel bad for Allen because he didn't ask for any of this. I just think that some talent evaluators are going to put him in a position to fail where I just don't think he can succeed or whatever. And people are like, oh, you've been bashing Allen nonstop. And I'm like, no. I've never, ever, ever bashed Josh Allen, the person, and I never will. I don't know him, and from all accounts, he's a really good dude. I just, I think that him as a player, he's got a lot to work on, but I brought that up because, Hakeem, you mentioned the thing about you like Josh Allen, the person and the leader, and I think that that's something that not a lot of people really know a lot about. And I think by listening to somebody who was on the ground in Wyoming for the last couple of years to really get a full picture of what Josh Allen is like, I think you'll be interested, and I think a lot of people will be interested to really learn that side of Josh Allen that is very rarely reported on or talked about.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to that. That sounds great. Just like all of us, I'm trying to, research and gather as much information on all these players myself. So, I would love to listen to that. I can't wait. I agree totally that, the beat reporters, they have the best pulse of the team, of the players, know what's going on with the coaching staff. So I can't wait. That's going to be awesome.
Sounds
yeah,
like
man, like I said.
Hakeem. Like, you need a podcast to get a media credential for.
We'll have to send you to Wyoming. We're also, by the way, if you're interested, Hakeem, because it sounds like you like Allen more than a lot of people, but we're going to be doing the same beat reporter in Wyoming is going to be at the Pro Day on Friday, and he's going to call in, and we're going to do a very special breaking news podcast with a full report from Josh Allen's Pro Day at TOJ. So that'll be fun too.
I went in on that.
On the Josh Allen podcast, let me talk to Joe Caparoso about getting you a plane ticket down to Wyoming.
Okay, cool. I might be.
You willing to fly first class?
Yeah. I'll pay for it. It's fine. My salary is pretty big as is.
Wow.
It's true. Although we now know that you're the
Connor.
second highest paid guy.
Yeah,
Connor. Yeah.
Well, best believe next round of negotiations, I'm gonna look at my production compared to this fool's, and
True.
Be like double my salary.
Look, I already asked for Fahey money, and Caparoso laughed at me. So
Yeah.
Listen, it is what it is.
Gotta get on my list.
Yeah, of course. You gotta do what you gotta do. But yeah, no, my thing with it is like Hakeem, when you talk to people that they don't refer to him as Josh Allen or Allen, when they're talking about him, they refer to him as Josh. Right?
Oh yeah.
Well, no, what I mean is like when you're talking to a reporter that refers to him like,
So when you guys call me Fahey, does that mean you don't respect me?
Oh my.
No, I think it's because we don't want to confuse you with that other Kyle that none of us like. And you know who I'm talking about. That dude who threatened to punch you in the face.
Is it bro?
What?
You know what I'm talking about, Fahey?
Is it like Dominguez or something?
No, that dude, don't you remember? He said he was going to smack you because you said something about his daughter or something, or Ben did.
Oh, my God.
Okay, that might have been me.
All right. No, but now, yeah, so that's why I call you Fahey. You don't remember that?
No, not at all. But I could definitely.
All right, we'll have to talk about this off the. It was the same guy that was trying to do all that nonsense about the social media fake follower stuff.
Oh yeah, Dominguez.
Oh, that's his name? I didn't know what the hell his name was.
Yeah, I think it's Kyle Dominguez.
I don't know what his name is. I just knew his name was Kyle, so I didn't want to confuse you two.
NYJF Dick Blackie? Yeah, that guy.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't want to confuse you two because I didn't want people to think that you're a guy that would threaten a 16-year-old with violence, but, you know.
I threatened to kill myself when we drafted Josh Allen, so I don't know about that.
Well, you threatened yourself with violence. You didn't threaten... You did threaten an 18-year-old, Ben, with violence, but Ben is technically an adult, so that's okay.
No, Ben's still 17.
Oh, is he? I thought he was 18. All right, well, in that case, never mind. My point is invalid.
I mean, I can threaten you right now.
You could, because I'm an adult, so you could threaten me all you want. It's not threatening a minor. You could threaten Hakeem too. I think Hakeem would probably whoop your ass, but that's another story.
Hakeem, I'll kill you.
I have too much love for you guys, man. Fahey has so much Twitter beef with the whole world out there. He doesn't even know.
I swear to God, I'm fighting everybody on Twitter nowadays. I just get on and somebody's like, "Screw you," and I was like, "Who are you? Do I know you?"
They're confusing you with what's that guy Cian Fahey that everybody hates.
I saw possibly the greatest tweet of all time. It was like, "Hey Kian, I'm a big fan. I'm unfollowing you now." And he was just like, he quote tweeted it. He was like, "All right then."
That's the guy that's legendary. I don't know anything about it because I've never tweeted at him, but apparently he loves to block literally everybody.
Yeah, he blocked Ben, and then I had to because I was a fan of his work, and we're distant relatives, so obviously I didn't want to be bothered. I tried to get him on the podcast, and I was like, "Hey man, love to have you on." He was like, "Sure, anytime." And we scheduled something. And he's like, "What's the name of it?" And I was like, "The Jet Take." And he was like, and then he didn't respond to me for a week, and I was like, "Hey man, what's up?" He's like, "I won't come on your podcast till you get another co-host." And I was like, "Well,
dude, you should have lied and said your name, that the podcast name was The Jet Took or something like that. He would have been confused and come on.
That would have really baffled him. Just those couple letters right there, change them.
No, I mean, from what I hear, the guy liked to party a little bit. If you caught him in the right frame of mind, maybe you would have been confused.
Yeah, what was that? It was the dumbest thing ever. He got drunk at a bar and literally got into a shouting match with somebody, and then felt the need to resign because he thought that was a huge scandal. I mean, that's hilarious.
It's 2018, man. Apparently, everybody feels the need to resign for anything. I don't know. It's a little wacky.
Yeah, he pulled a. What joke can I make here? Who resigned? Oh, he pulled a Joe Paterno.
Yeah, I would say what he did was slightly less offensive than Joe Paterno, but I got you.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how you look at it.
I guess, we'll let Hakeem judge. What do you think?
No,
I'm just kidding,
not
Hakeem.
I'm
just kidding.
Hakeem's got a job to worry about. He can't be making comments like
that. This man's got responsibilities. He can't be making jokes like that on here.
The next job interview.
Yeah, man.
Hakeem, were you recently on the Jet Take and you said Joe Paterno actually wasn't that bad of a person? Can you back that statement up right now?
God, you guys are going to get people in trouble. I already know it.
Oh, I'm definitely, my college interviews are going to go very badly. I can already.
Oh, I already know that. I've had colleges already call me, and they're like, "This Fahey kid." I'm like, listen.
Is he legitimately insane? What's up? Should we be concerned?
I'm like, look, it's just the character he plays on the podcast. He's not really. He's a good kid, and then they'll read me tweets from his Twitter account, and then I have to try to defend it, and I feel like a defense attorney. It's kind of tough to do, Hakeem.
It's okay. I'll get Mark. It's okay. I don't want to put you under that situation. I'll get my real lawyer.
Schofield? Yeah. Well, listen. Yeah. Schofield wants a raise.
Well, I want to raise too, so we'll have to talk to Joe.
Hakeem, what do you think? Do you think that Kyle should surpass, when the contract negotiations come up, that Kyle should surpass Connor Rogers as the highest paid writer at TOJ?
Oh, man. I mean, I don't think so. Not this yet. The money's going to change, Kyle, at this age. So
okay. Good to see I have loyal friends in my corner.
We're going to bring you up the right way, man. Don't worry. The money's it's all there for you. You just got to prove yourself, stay consistent, and then we'll just keep franchise tagging you like Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, Caparoso's going to franchise tag you 3 years in a row like Kirk Cousins.
All right, I'll just fail a couple drug tests and get out of it then.
Listen, good Lord, guys, you got to come up with a catchphrase like Cousins, man.
I think I have a couple of them. Cucked is definitely my favorite one.
You just been cucked. Yeah, that's a good one.
Calling Ben a hoe in the group chat and then having him text me like 2 minutes later. He's like, "Hey man, we talked about this. I don't want you calling me a hoe." He does.
Oh my God.
He literally texted me one night. He's like, "Dude, we talked about this. I asked you to stop calling me a hoe. It's not nice." And I was like, "Are you kidding me right now?" I was like, "You can't be serious."
Airing out the dirty laundry.
Look, man, all I can tell you is Ben is from Oregon. They have different standards of what's acceptable than what people like us or listen, I'm from New York, so you could, somebody comes in, they just go, "Your mom's a whore," and you kind of just laugh, and that's the end of it. But, Ben's from Oregon. And
that's how I was raised. Ben, we were on FaceTime, talking about season 3 on, who we wanted to book and stuff for, the show, and he was like, "Bro, I walked into the bathroom today and there was a kid vaping." And I was like, "Kids literally vape in the middle of class when they're reading out loud in my school. I don't want to hear anything. I walk to my car and I get a smoke cloud in my face. You know nothing, you imbecile."
Well, I don't even mean that. I just mean that it's a very different. Like I said, listen, look. I got a buddy that lives in Dallas. In fact, Big John, my co-host for Play Like a Jet, lives in Dallas, Fort Worth. He's originally from here. Oh boy, let me just say this. John is 6'2", 270 pounds. Just hope you never encounter him in a dark alley after that comment. That's all I'm going to tell you. There's a reason we call him Big John. It's not an ironic nickname.
I might want to encounter him in an alley. 6'2", damn.
Well, all right. Well, listen, maybe you would, but every time I'm down to visit, or the time I was down to visit him, it's just a very different thing where no one curses. If I were to make the kind of joke that you make, Kyle, or that I frequently will make, that here just everybody just says and no one takes seriously, they would get really upset about it. So it's just I guess Ben's just from a different culture than what you're used to.
A private Catholic school. So, I mean, and the
ironic part about that is isn't Ben Jewish and he's going? No, I'm just kidding. A little Catholic school humor there.
Well, yeah, guys, I could definitely attest to that because I grew up in Jersey, so I know how it is. But now I live in the West Coast, California, and it's definitely a different woke vibe out here. And people, they're a lot nicer. So I can understand why he got a little offended when you did what you did. But no, totally funny. But listen, guys, I got to get going. But I can't wait to listen to you guys' show, tomorrow and then the week after. Also, thank you guys for having me on so much.
I can almost guarantee.
Yeah.
Hakeem, you're a good man.
All right, I'll see you guys on Twitter.
Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Later, brother.
We call you Hakeem, first name basis.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. We don't just do that for everybody, do we, Kyle?
Oh, I see what you did there.
You told me to call you by your first name, so I was trying to.
I didn't say that, but I judge my real friends by what they call me, because not to brag or anything. I'm fairly popular at school, and most people call me Fahey. They say, "Hey, Fahey, what's up?" And I was I dap them up. It's whatever. My real friends call me Kyle. So.
All right. Oh, well, listen. You learn a thing. You learn things about a guy. You co-host some podcasts and. You find out. You find out the truth.
Yeah, I mean, just finding more and more about the most interesting man in the world.
Apparently, Kyle now thinks of me in the same category as Ben Blessington. I'm sad.
No. No. Don't ever think that about yourself. Never. Don't insult yourself.
You know what I find funny? Like, the two of you are like cats and dogs, right? But I think it produces really interesting content, and that's
the greatest
really
content of all time. It like works, and there was like really a part in this relationship where we were like very close to quitting, and then we were like, this is really good content when you think about it.
Yeah, it's the best. Angry Ben and Angry Kyle. I mean, like I said, there have been times I've talked to you guys before the show where I think it was better than anything that was actually on the air. Just the two of you. It was like roast battle. You know what I mean?
We can go back and forth for hours because we just know so much about each other just from like over time, and it's like, wow, they're really hitting personal stuff. I mean, we both got our fair issues as individuals, and like obviously family issues that we know about. I mean, there's no holds bar. I mean, once somebody crosses a line, there's no more lines. It's just, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, at a certain point, it just becomes kind of like, the Gladiator. Are we not entertained? I don't know, man. You guys, the two of you.
Last episode, it got like 1,000-something downloads. So, like, it's working.
People like conflict, man. Listen, let's be honest. It's the reason why people tune in to watch, or always did, with Stephen A. Smith and Skip. It was the two of them yelling at each other. So
Skip,
I would like to think that you guys are better than those two morons, but
100%. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, I love Shannon Sharp. I love it when he breaks out the Henny and is just like, Skip, come on, man. Come on, Skip. I love that. That's hilarious.
Dude, that's actually not bad. That's not a bad impression.
I've been working on it. Skip.
It's not bad.
I wasn't good enough for CBS. They couldn't take me seriously, Skip. So I went to Fox. They paid me a shit ton of money, and now I'm here arguing with you and your wife. What's her name? He always what's Skip Bayless' wife's name? He always like tweets about her.
I don't even know. Can I just make a point about Skip Bayless? Do you think at any point when Tim Tebow was in high school that it got awkward that he was across the street with binoculars watching? Like, do you think at a certain point the cops got called and they were like, hey, there's this like weird guy who's watching our quarterback with binoculars from across the street? You think that happened a lot when Tebow was in high school?
I don't know what you're referring to be honest, and I'm a big Tebow.
The fact that if you go back, Skip Bayless like has a incredibly crazy obsession with Tim Tebow.
I mean, have you seen the man? He's sexy as hell.
This is true. True. I'm just saying it might have gotten taken to a creepy level. Skip Bayless is the perfect example of how you could be a complete or act like a complete idiot, because I don't think he's actually anywhere near as stupid as he portrays himself. That by acting like an idiot, you can make some serious cash. It's crazy, man. So in that regard, that's what it is that I think people love about this show, is that the two of you go at each other's throats, and there's some, like, people know it's not fake, man. People don't like fake stuff. They know that when you guys are fighting, it's real. Like, you guys really don't like each other, and you guys really use personal stuff.
Yeah, like, we bring out like, Ben will, like, cover it up. He's like, oh, of course I'm joking. And it's like, wow, you actually just referenced my deadbeat mother. Like, wow. There's, like, no holds bar. I think that's the perfect place to end it, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Kyle, listen, we've got so much going on at TOJ Digital. Obviously, 8 o'clock Wednesday nights, you guys, right? I mean, people calling in, this is where you want to voice your opinions. It's a great forum for everybody. We've got tomorrow in the morning at some point, the TOJ podcast is going to drop, and it's going to be a really good one, and it's going to include Mr. Matt Miller from Bleacher Report, who's obviously a big name in draft circles, so that's going to be a really awesome podcast. Then on Friday, we're going to have Thomas Jones for part 6 of our look at 2009 on Play Like a Jet. We're at about the midway point of the season, and this was kind of an up-and-down year. Mark Sanchez started from week 1. It could be a little bit of a preview of what we could expect if, say, the rookie, whoever it ends up being, Mayfield, Darnold, Rosen, or God forbid, Allen, starts at a certain point in the season next year. Obviously, it's different because when Sanchez got drafted, there was a reasonable expectation he would start day one. I think that with McCown and Bridgewater here, I don't know that that'll happen this time. But so 2009 was the last time a highly touted rookie that was picked in the top 5 at quarterback started games for the Jets. So if you really want to get an idea from a great running back, Thomas Jones, we've got that. Then we have the special podcast that'll be coming out probably either Friday night or early Saturday morning. It's going to be a report from Josh Allen's pro day from Wyoming. We've got somebody down on the ground there, so that'll be a lot of fun. And then the quarterback series starts on Tuesday. We're doing them one a week starting Tuesday for 4 weeks. Each week we're going to profile one of the 4 quarterbacks that are in contention. And I will say the Jets moving up made my job a little easier because I was also going to do Lamar Jackson and Mason Rudolph, and now obviously there's no need to do that. But we're going to start off with Josh Allen, and like I said, we've got Dan Orlovsky and Mark Schofield to break down the tape and really analyze the nuts and bolts of what Allen does at the quarterback position, both negative, positive, all that stuff. I've got Jim Colburn to come on and talk about the data and the analytics. And Kyle, I don't want to spoil it, but let's just say things are going to get a little interesting with Jim Colburn when it comes to Josh Allen and the analytics. And then the final part of this will be, like I said, there's a terrific beat reporter from Wyoming named Robert Gagliardi. He's coming on to talk about Josh Allen inside and out, the stuff that he knows from having covered him day in, day out for the last couple of years. So lots going on at TOJ Digital, Kyle. So much good written content, too. And I know that you and Connor Rogers, who's back now, yay, Connor, welcome home, buddy. We've got Joe Malfa's gear. Say that again?
Still not allowed on his podcast.
Well, to be fair, none of us are. But that's, look, I'm talking to the police about that. We might be able to ease the restrictions. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. There's that restraining order thing. It was that time, Kyle, you and I were hanging out at Connor's apartment, and, we got a little too familiar. It was a little awkward, So we're seeing. Yeah, we probably shouldn't have had the cell phone camera and everything. So we'll hopefully Connor forgives us and the police get rid of the restraining order, and maybe we'll get on Connor's podcast now that he's back in the family. But Malfa is really gearing up. I keep joking that he's like the ultimate warrior, shaking the ropes, getting ready to do his thing. Dalvin Asario is in the middle of a race for city council, but he's going to jump in and do his stuff with the draft. So we're really loaded for bear at TOJ, man. I'm so excited. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm working on some cool stuff with TOJ Digital. I don't know exactly yet what's going on. I can't make any announcements or anything, but I'm trying to do some things from a production standpoint. So we'll see where everything goes, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And Kyle, I'm glad, like I said last week, that you and Ben are back with the Jet Take. I think that TOJ Digital is stronger when you guys are around to take calls and, like you said, almost kill each other on the air. So looking forward to everything, man. And like I said, the next podcast will be Joe with the TOJ pod in the morning. If you're listening to this live right now, you'll hear Joe in the morning. I don't know when you would be downloading it. Joe could already be up with the TOJ pod, then Play Like a Jet on Friday. So, Kyle, I guess we'll end it there. But as always, a pleasure, sir. I hope can call in again at some point next week. I hope I'm not on the ban list the way that Ben has been banned from Sian Fahey's Twitter feed now.
Yeah. You won't be. Maybe.
And listen, man, I'll throw this out there too. I know I need to talk to Ben, but I also need to talk to you at some point off the air. So hit me when you get a chance, my man.
Uh-oh. All right. Well.
No, nothing bad, dude. Just us being pals, that's all.
Is it time for the talk?
Birds and the bees and all.
Yeah. It's actually a poor analogy. All right. We'll leave you with the best chant in the NFL. Go Jets. Fuck Kirk Cousins, honestly. Fuck Kirk Cousins.